7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You'll never have the sacred stone.
Welcome into another edition of the Vegas Squares podcast. It is Prop Bet Extravaganza time. It is the Bible, as we like to call it. The Westgate Superbook Prop Bets. I believe Jay Cornegie has announced that there are 442 betting selections with over 1,000 choices. And I've been looking at it for a grand total of 3 days, and I don't know what the fuck to do with it. Gentlemen, we got a big cast in here. We've got 5 people sitting in a small-ass room. So I'm just going to go right to left and start. We got Tony Johnson on one mic. What's up, Tony?
This is the 1-year anniversary for me here.
For you, your first podcast.
First podcast was the prop betting podcast from last year and is still my favorite podcast that I have ever done here because
it's the only good one you've ever done, too.
I would agree with that as well. And the Super Bowl props are about some of the greatest betting opportunities that you can have, not only just for necessary, trying to make money, but just pure fun.
Right on, right on. And on another mic, we've got Token Tony.
Yo, what's up? Glad to be here again. Lots of fun going over all these props, so.
Cool. And we've got Spike back from his vacation. He says surgery, but we all...
What the fuck vacation? I got my stomach ripped out, you bastard.
Yeah, well, that's what happens when you have one too many Dr. Peppers. But you're looking good. You're looking less ugly now. So it's good to see you back and up on your feet.
So the surgery had nothing to do with my face. I want to make that abundantly clear.
Well, they went in there and did something on your face.
And I am down about 40 pounds, so there you go.
There you go. Kudos to you, sir.
What about the jersey wearing, Spike? Is there going to be a whole new jersey wardrobe, or are we just going to roll with everything we got?
So that's kind of the problem, is that everything I have is the old size, and I don't know if I'm still going to be able to fit in it. Actually, this is why I haven't bought any new Knights gear this season, because I don't know what's going to go on. So hopefully...
Well, in fairness, some of those hockey jerseys you came strolling in with, the seams were...
They were busting a little bit, but
so
some
they
of those
probably fit a little better now.
Some of those I've had since high school, especially like the old Whalers ones. So these are some of the ones that this is the one thing that is really I have to pay attention to. I don't care about like any of the other benefits that I'm getting out of this. I have to figure out what to do about my hockey jersey.
There you go. Are you eating solid food yet, sir?
No, well, I'm not supposed to, but yeah, I've had beef jerky and I've had a pork kebab.
Beef jerky was your first
motherfucker's
choice?
stomach is going to explode. The doctor's just going to stand there shaking his head at him and be like, "Goddamn Jeffrey, motherfucking idiot."
Yeah, how about we don't use my real name on the fucking podcast? Since
It's on the damn intro, dude.
I'm the only one that has a real job that has to worry about getting fired for this shit.
Are you kidding me? We have to worry about getting fired. At least I have to worry about getting
Look
fired.
at some of the tweets that our founder and host here has sent the last 3 or 4 weeks.
No, I have come off of the aggressive train a little bit. Now I'm just mostly retweeting aggressive tweets. All right, newest member of the squad. He is from Toledo, Ohio, although he's lived, it sounds like, every single city and destination in the continental United States. We got Cleo sharing a mic with Spike. Their heads are incredibly close to each other.
Decently close. Yeah, glad you guys could have me on, though. Glad for my first little podcast here.
This might be your last one if you don't speak up.
Oh, my bad. Get a little closer here.
There you go. Could you get any closer to Spike? His head is very large.
1 inch closer.
There you go.
But, yeah, thanks for having me on, and I'm excited for this podcast. And
So tell us a little bit about yourself. All of our listeners are waiting to hear about you.
Well, I'm originally from Toledo, Ohio, like you said. Played hockey and golf most of my life. When I turned 20, I turned professional in golf and moved to Orlando, Florida, and did the mini tours and tried to work my way up and be the first one to say I didn't work as hard as I could work. But
there you go. It's a hard way to make an easy living, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, very true. But now I'm here in Las Vegas and trying to do poker and golf. So
right on.
I want to live my life, but it is fun.
I have a question. Did you ever play on the Hooters tour?
That's the NGA tour now. Actually,
oh, it's not the Hooters anymore?
Swing Thought Tour, I believe now.
Jeez.
They keep changing the name, but I have not played on that. That's expensive.
Is it?
Lots of sponsoring and things like that. Golf's expensive. Like You really need backers. It's like poker.
I went to a Hooters tour event in Orlando at the Metro West Country Club, and it was like the best 3 days. I wouldn't say of my life, but it was a really good 3 days.
Was it like Happy Gilmore style golf?
Yeah, I mean there were Hooters girls everywhere, and there was like once you paid your entry fee or your pass, you got free Bud Light, Coors Light. It was really cool. I mean the pass was like $180 for the whole 4 days. We went for 3, but I mean you couldn't beat it.
Deal, yeah.
And
it's not like that anymore.
No, I'm sure it's not. But like the gallery was more laid back. The guys on tour were like hyping you up and everything. And
okay, yeah.
I mean, it's like the complete opposite of when Tiger Woods steps up to a ball. I mean,
Jim Furyk?
Yeah.
He's one of the most known guys that came off that tour.
Right on.
Oh, nice.
So, all right, well, welcome, Cleo. We appreciate you obviously being aboard, and hopefully looking forward to a lot more podcasts.
Most definitely, thank you.
But
With a less crowded room next time.
Well, good. You can telecommute. We'll just have you on the phone. You fuck.
Hey, that's not a bad idea. Should have done that tonight.
There you go. All right, so let's start with obviously the Superbook, the Bible, as we like to call it, and the New England Patriots are 2.5-point favorites. Total 57 is what they have right now. Is Westgate still rocking that as a current number for both of those?
No, they're down to 56.5 for the total, but the 2.5 is still remaining strong there, and I think the Westgate will be the book that will be the absolute hardest to move off of the 2.5 going towards the 3 number. They could certainly move down, but this is going to be one of. I mean, this is probably the sharpest book out there, and they are not going to want to move.
Well, not only that, I mean, I haven't seen a lot of places move to 3. I mean, we've heard
I
stories
saw slightly William Hill and as well as a few other books on the strip moved to 3, but not even for a full day yet. So
yeah.
Okay. All right. Well. All right. That cancels what I was going to say, so never mind. All right, let's move forward, because actually what I was going to say is actually Jimmy Vaccaro basically came out and said, for 15 minutes we're moving this to 3, and he got $800,000 on the Rams coming in. For.
Yeah, they only do flat lines there, too, so they don't move around money lines. It's all bit minus 110 at South Point.
Speaking of, how did it go for South Point when you went to go pick up the bets, the packet there?
Yeah, no, so,
the floor is yours.
We're rolling around different places, getting their different Bibles and just looking through everything. I noticed that the South Point packet seemed very light, and so I looked through it, and starting on page 1, I looked all the way through, and then page 5 turned into page 17, I believe. It skips right from 5 to 17. So I went back up to the front, and I go, where are pages 6 through 16? And the person didn't know what I was talking about, so they had to go to a manager, and the manager said, well, 6 through 16 will come out on Wednesday. I'm like, well, that's all the player props. That's like kind of all the juicy good stuff. They're like, yeah, we're not going to have that out until Wednesday. And this was at Ramparts. This was not South Point. And I said, I assume this comes from your head of house, South Point. He's like, yeah, they do everything. They just send us all the stuff. So, all this talk about the legendary Jimmy Vaccaro being a 40-year bookmaker, always on the cutting edge, doing stuff differently, flat lines, all this other bullshit. It's all crap. If he can't come out with player props for the Super Bowl where everyone is jockeying for position, trying to do the best they can. I know I talked to the sportsbook director at Santa Fe, and this was in the middle of last week, and he said we're working our asses off, trying to get it out by Friday or Saturday. Who knows? But I mean, they made it a point to work as hard as possible to get this thing out, so they can take in as many bets, and it can be, again, fun for what's going on. But yeah, Jimmy not liking what's going on, and I am taking it as a personal affront for a fan of sports betting that he has stooped this low to wait until Wednesday.
Jimmy's back in the back smoking a cigar going, fuck Tony Johnson.
Yeah, and that's fine. And I'd love to have a conversation with him about it, too. Absolutely would love to, because this is piss poor. Absolutely piss poor.
Now, I got a question, because to me, everybody's kind of all out at once, like you're talking about player props, et cetera, the whole 9 yards. And I open this up to everybody. Are there any advantages or disadvantages to Jimmy waiting and putting him out on Wednesday? Maybe he's got something a little more cutting edge, as he's known for, that might actually be juicier than what we're seeing right now.
I hope you're right. And then I will backtrack a little bit if he's got some great ideas and good things come out.
Because, I mean, if he regurgitates what we're reading right now, because, again, I mean, there are some, you talked about it too, there are some lines for a player or whatever that could be upwards of 10 yards or 10 points.
Absolutely. Yep.
So I'm curious to see what he can come out with.
That's what makes it interesting and fun, and different books are taking different action on different players, and that's I want to be able to see that. You want to see the books compete and have different numbers and make it so it's a fun competition between the sports bettor and the people behind the counter. And I to see Jimmy not participating and they're not taking UFC bets now and things like that. I understand it's a business decision. That's what they're going to do. But that's just, I don't know. They're going much more corporate.
You would think instead of ripping the UFC off the board, he would hire a guy or bring in somebody a little more versed in it.
Just do it better. Exactly. Could not agree more with that. Totally agree. So, yep.
All right. So, like I said, 2.5. We're looking at 56.5 to 57. Obviously, you're familiar with, if you listen to the podcast, that Spike, Token Tony, and I have a playoff-long prop bet, so we will not be divulging how we feel or what we'll be taking then until later on in the week. But I want to get meaning you, Tony Johnson, and Cleo, I want to get your thoughts on those two numbers before we dive into the prop bets, because you're not part of our actual prop bet the three of us have. So you guys can divulge what you're going to be taking, or at least what you're feeling right now a week away from Super Bowl 53.
Well, I'll start. I'm taking the New England Patriots, minus the 2.5. With Tom Brady's experience and just the team that they have, I just don't see how the LA Rams are going to beat them. Now, that's my opinion, and
that's all what sports betting is.
Well, exactly. I'm not, as in the football as you guys, but from what I see, I think it's Tom Brady's year again.
Don't worry, you're sitting with the worst handicapper in the room on that side. So,
well, he's a Pats fan, so you're good to go.
But
it could be worse.
I really like the New England Patriots to just take this game. And the over/under.
It's a tough one.
Yeah, it's real. I like the over. I really like the over. I mean, LA Rams have a 28th ranked rushing defense,
which is surprising given Sue and Donald and Fowler.
Sony Michel, I think he's going to do fine. I think it'll be some high scoring game. I really do. It'll be close. I think it'll be close as well.
And Tony Johnson, where are you sitting at here in this so far? Well, 1 week away.
I'm glad you went to the both of us because I have a differing opinion on both of them, and it's great to hear. Yeah, no, but this is the beautiful thing about it is that this game, especially the Super Bowl, which is there's so much variance in these types of games. There's a lot of unknown. It's not not unlike a regular season game where you have so many expectations coming in. To me, the biggest difference I see is the line opened up at a lot of places where the Rams were a favorite. They opened up as like a 1-point favorite at a lot of spots. Some places were a pick 'em, and they got a lot of money right away from New England. They moved that line usually within about an hour at most books. And to me, I think that they made a mistake opening the line where they did, but I actually think that is the proper line. To me, the Rams should be a 1 to 1.5 point favorite of some variance there. And the fact that this thing has pushed up into the 3 range, if this was a regular season game, this would be a definite play for me because that much of a difference in what I believe the spread is versus what it really is would be a definite bet. But again, we get into the point where this is the Super Bowl and odd things happen. You have 2 weeks in between the games. It's a little bit of a tough spot there. So. My definite lean is getting the points here, especially if you can get at +3. I was able to sneak one in when it went to -110 at Will Hill, getting 3 for the Rams. But on the total, I have it at 56. That's the line I came up with pretty quickly before it came out, and it opened at 59. And I was fortunate to get the under there, but as it's come down here over the last week now, I have bought the other side. So I've taken the over now at 56.5. I'm just going to try to middle it and see what happens. But my number is 56. It's pretty close. But as you said, this is a tough one. And you get a team. I don't want to see a team get down more than 2 scores in this game because I think the other opposing offense, no matter if it's the Rams or the Patriots, can score quickly and score at will. So that's where it gets really hairy. If you are an under-better in this game, you want this to be close and within a score throughout. I think that's what you should be rooting for, more so than a blowout early on.
You think if there's a big blowout, who do you think has a better chance of really doing the big blowout?
It's got to be the Patriots.
Yeah, I would agree.
The initial thought is the Patriots based on, tenure and a lot of veteran players on the team. But to me, I think the Rams are the better team. So I would always err on the side that the better team has a higher chance to blow out the other team. That's my only thought here. Nobody thought that Atlanta, could potentially do this a couple of years ago in the Super Bowl. And while they didn't hold on to that lead, they were still out to a very big lead early.
Yeah, but I'm looking at the Patriots the way they've gone through the playoffs, and it seems like it's ball control and rushing.
Yeah, a little different than years past. You're right.
And I feel like if there's a blowout of that kind of proportion, like Cleo's talking about, it's going to be an a la similar Patriots-Chargers game that we saw, what was that, almost 2 weeks ago now at this point. If the Patriots can establish a run against the 28th ranked rushing defense, keep Sue and Donald on their toes or on their heels, keep them back. I mean, Fowler has really been non-existent. Actually, even Aaron Donald and Sue have really been virtually non-existent even in the games that they've won. And the New England Patriots have shown that they can run the ball. They got a three-headed, well, I would say Burkhead and Michelle mostly, but you can't forget James White. He can carry the ball too. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I understand what you're saying. I think
good points. Yeah, you're making good points.
The Rams, I can't agree with it, and I'm taking my home bias out of this, but I can't agree with the Rams being the better team based on experience, and that's the experience of the quarterback and the experience at the head coaching position.
Yeah,
so,
and I'm not worried about the head coaching one. I think that's the one that
I'm not so worried about.
If we're
talking about a blowout here, is what I'm saying.
Right.
Things start to spiral out of control. Bill Belichick's been in 8 Super Bowls.
Fair enough.
Things start to spiral out of control. We don't know. We haven't seen McVay have to scramble around and really catch up.
Sure.
So it's kind of that snowball effect. One thing leads to another, We're looking at 31-10 before they can, kind of catch their breath. But
if it wasn't for the finish that New England had last game, I would be all LA Rams, even if New England were to win it. I mean, the last couple plays that they pulled, those 3rd and 10s to Edelman,
that overtime drive, yeah,
just kept going. I mean, it made it look so easy.
But at the same time, I mean, if D Ford lines up on side, we're not even having this conversation at all. So
yeah,
but yeah, it's an interesting thing. So yeah, I mean, you like the Patriots. He's on the Rams side. The total again, that's a tough one. Good number, no matter where you can find it. Curiosity to me, I saw this. It was interesting, and I'm going to flip from the Bible over to Station Casinos here for a second. They've already got a second half wager available, which I mean, if you know betting, that doesn't ever exist. A week before the Super Bowl, the Patriots at a -1, no matter what the game is, and a total of 28. I've never seen this. Has anybody else ever seen this? And what is your take on this one?
I haven't seen it myself, but my take on it is I think Pats -1 is a good bet. I think either if they're behind, they'll come back and keep it close, or even pull ahead, or they just keep the pressure on the Rams. So.
Only offshore that I've ever seen. I've never seen it actually at one of the spots here in Vegas. And again, that's one of those things we talked about a little earlier. That's it's a new type of bet. There's intrigue. It's interesting. I like when books are creative, and I think it's fantastic. If I was to err on a side, and I'm usually more on a total versus a spread anyway. That's just kind of how my mind works. But to me, I think this game will start out a little bit slow, a little bit kind of both teams jockeying for position and field. And field position and things like that, and to me, I would lean more on probably an over play as GP general public as that sounds, but that's probably more.
It's got acronyms
I think
now.
The aspect of it. Well, I've been using that one for a while, but not like in this podcast, but just one of those things that I was taught when I was a really young age from my dad about not being on where the public is. So that was, anyways, some weird early sports betting lessons. But yes. I think that would be the spot I'd be in, despite the fact that I like the under in the game. But I think this thing will start out a little bit slow, and if you see the pace pick up and we see offenses look a little stronger, I think it'll be in the second half.
Fair enough. The first thing I'm looking at, obviously, again, stations with a second half wagering, kind of a new concept. I always look to the quarter wagering. Is anybody a big fan of doing the quarters? Anybody like that at all? I think that's kind of a tough one to determine flow of the game.
I think that's the toughest, right?
It can be, depending on the way things go. I mean, the ebbs and flows of a football game, it makes it difficult. The Patriots are literally a half-point favorite in all 4 quarters. The total jumps from 10 to 17 from first to second quarter, back to 10 in the third quarter, and then in fourth quarter it's 14. It's a wild one. It would be really hard to sit here and say the third quarter in a week from now. I don't know. I'm gonna take the Rams to come out of the gate from halftime.
I actually circled a first quarter only before I came here. I circled the over 10.5 first quarter.
7-7.
Tony was saying how he thinks to be slow, which I don't disagree with that. But my thoughts were could be a pretty fiery first quarter.
And did you have? Is there a money line attached to that 10.5 as well?
There's a -120 Patriots
on the over 10.5.
The over 10.5 is plus 120.
Oh my!
Under is 140. Just on Westgate.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what I'm saying too. So I didn't know if there was a different one or if you were looking at the Westgate one Clio or not. But yeah, because it could vary. I'm guessing it would vary between, because I'm sure every book is going to offer a
the
first quarter
stations looks
line.
like it's 110 either way, minus 110 either way.
Interesting. Well, there you go, and that's another.
So that's another way with
thing.
shopping. I mean, if you like the over in that, you're going to get 30 cents of extra value in there.
Yeah, there you go.
In that spot. All right, who likes the alternate point spreads? Anybody looking at alternate point spreads? I know you love the alternate point spreads, especially when during the playoffs. I think you had it 2 or 3 different occasions.
Yeah, it's one of those things, and I hardly ever bet on a favorite alternate spread. I'm always looking at the underdog sides, always looking at the sides that are sort of the anti-public sides. Like, for example, in this game,
Everything on the Rams.
I'd be more intrigued by the Rams winning by multiple scores. I'd be much more intrigued by a super low total. In case the game sort of does go like I think it's going to. Not to say that it can't be a 70-point combined game. I totally could see it happening. But to me, I think it's more likely it's in the 30s and 40s if it goes super, one way or the other. So that's the sides that I would be on. And again, it all comes down to line shopping, as you've said. If you can get something in the plus, 4-1, 5-1 range, I think that's where you need to be looking if it's a viable option, and if the Rams can win by 13 or more points. If you think that's a viable move, in order to get paid accordingly for that at 4 to 5 to 1, I think that's where you should be looking.
Yeah, because speaking of shopping, I've got two different packets in front of me here, and I'm looking at Rams minus 7.5 is 275 here, and then Rams minus 7.5 is 250 at stations. So, I mean, you're talking 25 cents in extra value there that you'd be giving away by going to Red Rock or Santa Fe, So you're right, line shopping is going to be – I think line shopping is going to be kind of the key in all of these booklets to look. I'm not even looking at Caesars. You have Gold Coast over there. You're talking about South Point. There might even be better options. But, I mean, for a professional sports bettor, absolutely driving around town shopping and handicapping. But for a guy who's – doing all his business in one or coming in for the weekend, I can't imagine he's going to be running around town. So you kind of wonder if Stations knows that they're going to be getting a little bit more people in, and they can save the 25 cents just in case Rams minus 7.5 does come through.
I agree. I think we'll see that with some of the player props too. We see certain players that are much higher or lower based on what they think is going to be, the people that are going to be there betting on these games. You'll see some of the shops that are going to get a lot of tourists. They have Tom Brady's passing yards, for example, are much higher than some of the other more like local based, or they might get some more sharper action. It's really fascinating to see.
We were looking at that one. It's a 10-yard difference. We'll talk about that in a little bit.
Yeah, no, it's just cool stuff. It really is.
Alternate totals. I know that you like this one, Tony. But is there anybody else right now looking at any kind of total and saying, let's jump off the 56 here? Anybody looking at an alternate total, one of the 4, or anything you guys seen in any of the other booklets?
I'm not giving you shit, motherfucker.
You already made your pick. That does no good. Make your.
That's why we did this.
That's why we did this.
Yeah.
All of our prop bet picks are in, so they cannot be changed.
Yes.
So if you're going to sit quietly this whole prop bet, then you can just kindly leave.
me myself, I look at the number 64.5. I like the under it plus 190, almost 2 to 1. I think that one's a decent value bet.
Where do you find that at? Because
Westgate, yeah.
He said the under, so that's why I was
I thought I said over.
He said the under at plus 190, so I'm just making sure, because I'm like, I'm getting a bad line here. So.
My phone out right now.
No, I'm like, let me bet that. Where's that?
Fire them all.
Fire the whole lot of them. No, I mean, you're right. I mean, those are some pretty heavy juice to go 14 points in another direction.
Yeah.
To pay $3 to go to the under, but 64.5 is not terrible, because it's 8 points in a direction to get basically. What are you getting? $1 in juice right there.
You're getting $1 in juice, yeah. I think there's some value in that, especially if you think these teams are going to go back and forth and put up a lot of touchdowns instead of field goals.
Yeah, I actually liken these to. I wish I could take these and make them part of my 14-point teasers that I love to do, but I don't think the Westgate's going to let me have them. Any of those.
No place that I know will let you do like parlays on props.
Yeah, there were some on William Hill that were allowing parlayable props.
Yeah,
it was a very small window.
A couple sheets on Westgate too. The pink sheets on Westgate.
Pink sheets are parlayable props.
Pink sheets are the parlay pages. Yes, but you got to be willing to do like first rushing attempts and first receptions of players and some weird stuff. But Hey, if you're into parlays, go for it. I think it's only two-team parlay maximum as well, so you can't go totally crazy either. But
still, that's still pretty cool to get yourself a little, especially if you can get some 110 or betters. You're looking at standard parlays.
Oh, there's a bunch of plus money here. Oh yeah, you could have a lot of fun with this. So
all right, well, let's move to the pink sheets there. And the first bet that everybody is always familiar with is the opening coin toss. And Token, you made mention of this a couple days ago, talking about how the juice on the opening coin toss has gone down.
Yeah, I've noticed, if not every spot, most spots that were normally a little higher, it's usually, I've seen some spots even do minus 110 both ways, and in some spots it's as low as minus 102, where it normally is that 110 or 105.
The Superbook has 102 each way.
Yeah, which
I've
I think
never
is
seen
fair.
a line like that.
It's crazy, isn't it? I've only seen that in baseball, the odd number, like the strange number lines. I've never seen it in any other sport. But yeah, it used to start out at 110, which I think a lot of people were complaining it's heavy juice for a bet that's 50-50. And I think since it's such a popular bet, they're going to be getting a lot of action on it. I figure the $2 juice that
They say if you have the heads up first, it's a 51% chance. That's what I heard.
the quarters. I know the quarter's a little bit heavier. The U.S. quarter's a little heavier on the head side.
Well, the Super Bowl thing's going to be like fucking.
Yeah, it's going to be not a quarter.
Looks like an Egg McMuffin
yeah,
size.
who knows, whatever they do there. But I know our compatriot Kelly in Vegas is a heads better. And she's made I think 5 in a row on heads, and I guess it's not gone well because tails has gotten there 4 out of the last 5 years, so she's still pretty salty about that. But she's back on it again this year. I heard one of her last
Definitely
podcasts.
a fan of the head.
Yeah.
All right, all right,
Nice.
Mr. Patriot. Speaking
Can I
of,
meet her?
can you meet her?
We're trying to make that happen. Yes,
We're getting that.
hopefully.
All right, so the first prop bet, not the coin toss. I'm going to throw this one over to Spike. Tom Brady's first pass will be complete or incomplete.
I'm not. And see, this is part of the problem is I don't know what the game plan is because I despise Josh McDaniels and what he's been doing for the last.
He's still going to throw a pass at some point.
He is going to throw a pass. I just don't know what it's going to look like. And I think it's probably going to be first drive. It'll be like a 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, probably up the middle to Edelman. I don't like the odds on that. I would actually bet incomplete on that one.
Yeah, I was looking at it too.
That's what?
like the odds
Plus
on that.
180. Yeah.
I'm kind of curious to see, like you're right, the last 2 games they've come out, established the run, quote unquote. I'm wondering if they come out and almost run the same 2-minute drive or 2-minute drill like they did in the overtime period against Kansas City, and see kind of what. Open up the game plan to see kind of what Wade Phillips' defense is planning on doing. Because I'm wondering if they're going to try to unleash Donald and Sue, and basically the 3-step drop and throw a ball right over might be the goal there. But
So this is the one stat that I'm going to give away now. Not that it gives away my pick necessarily.
We've established the
I know the pick is in, but I'm still trying to couch this as best I can.
with the first pick in the prop bet
Brady-
draft, Spike picks none. I'm not telling you.
When Brady has pressure coming from the edge rushers, his quarterback rating is like a 125. He's unbelievable. He gets out of it all the time. When pressure is coming up the middle, his quarterback rating drops to about a 60. And he has trouble dealing with that. The Rams rush up the middle more than anybody else. So if Brady is going to be successful in this game when he's trying to throw, he has to have extra protection on the offensive line. And the reason that I like the incomplete on this is not only are they going to try to establish the run, is that it usually takes the Patriots, and especially the offensive line, Josh McDaniels and Dante Scarnecchia, getting together and figuring out how to give that extra protection to Brady. So I think that is going to be the type of throw that Brady is going to miss, especially early in the game.
Fair enough. That's a good assessment. Been just saying. So, all right. First page of the prop bets, the parlayable prop bets, the pink sheets. What are we looking at, Cleo? I'll start with you. What are some of the prop bets you're looking at? Maybe betting this on this page 2 here.
Look real quick here.
Sorry, I'll start right.
Oh, right. Let's see. I'll look at the Sony Michel ones here. We got first rushing attempt over 3.5 yards.
Plus money.
Yeah, plus 110. Yep. Yeah, gosh, that's a tough one, really, honestly.
I'll come back.
There
Tony,
you go,
Tony, I know you've been studying the Superbook here.
Yeah, these are bets I haven't actually made yet because they are just of the singleton variety, but there are a couple I've been interested in, and it's just going to piggyback on what I'm interested in for the entire game. So, first one is Todd Gurley's first rushing attempt. I like the over 3.5 yards at even money here. I just like him in this game. I think he's gonna look a lot better than he did just a couple of weeks ago. And again, a lot of talk has been about how bad the Rams' rush defense is, and it certainly has been quite miserable. But New England's has as well, especially outside of their home. They've been a lot better at home versus on the road. That's essentially both offensively and defensively. But so that would be, I guess, the first spot I'd be in. And then I also like Josh Reynolds in a gadget type of play. I think he'll have a couple of big receptions. And so his first reception at 12.5 yards, again, if I'm going to have to be on something, I'm going to want to be on the over there as well because I think he is going to have one or two pretty big plays here. And I'm on a play that we'll get to later on involving Josh Reynolds, which is a very similar thing to this. So those are the two I'd be leaning towards.
Interesting. One I really like on this pink sheet is over by James White, first rushing attempt, 3.5. I think if they get him on the outside, he might break for almost a full 8 yards almost.
Yeah, a couple I've been looking at, obviously, is I actually took the incomplete on Brady's first pass as well, so I kind of like where you went with that.
By the way, it's plus 185 at station, so you get a little bit extra.
A little bit extra value there. Another prop I've actually bet almost every year, and I would say almost every year with the exception of the Broncos-Seahawks game, it has come through. And that was because of the safety, immediately. The first 6 minutes of the game, no score at plus 130. A lot of teams, whatever offensive juggernaut, defensive schemes, seem to come out a little timid, especially Patriot football. I mean, I believe in 8 Super Bowls they've scored in the first quarter once, and I don't even know if they did in the Eagles did last. I think last year was the first time they scored the first quarter.
That sounds right, actually. I don't know that for sure.
Either way, I think if the Patriots can get the ball, especially if they look to establish the run, I think 6.5 minutes can go off that clock relatively easily, and it's plus money at that point. So, barring a Cordero Patterson return or a quick score by either team, I'm thinking hopefully a 3 or 4 minute drive by both teams, and we get to 9.5 minutes, and or is it's going to be 8.5 minutes at that point. It looks like they've been toying with that number, because what did we look at for stations? I think stations had 6 minutes, and Superbook has 6.5 minutes. However, stations for that extra 30 seconds, Superbook for the extra 30 seconds, you can actually get 40 cents in juice.
Yeah, you're going to pay for the 30 seconds there, because I think those are pretty key numbers of when first scores actually do happen in games. I studied this one a couple of years back, and that realm, that area is really where you get scores versus not scores. So, yeah, you're going to end up having to pay. I think this is one of those bets that if you really strongly believe, like you guys are saying, a slow start, a couple of possessions to start out with, you should find the longest one you can get, and then just get
hopefully get the most plus value.
Yes, exactly. Versus on the flip side, if you think there's a good chance a gadget play right away or some quick score, find the lowest number you can get. See if you can get
Caesar says 5 minutes.
That's what I'd
Caesar says 5 minutes.
5 minutes, and
yes is plus 145.
What's the no?
Minus 165.
So there you go. So for another minute and a half, I'm getting 90 cents in juice right there.
Yeah.
So it's a numbers game. No pun intended, obviously. But another one I'm looking at. Another one I'm looking at here is actually
soccer.
Shut the fuck up. I realized after I said it, I'm like, this is stupid.
Or if you think for 7.5 minutes, I also see on the Superbook it's no at minus. Or no at plus 185.
Oh, I didn't even see that one. 185.
I have it on the website right now.
55 cents to the good. That, for another what? Half 30 seconds?
Minute.
Ooh, another minute. That gets tough. That's a long drive, or that's 2 unsuccessful halfway decent drives. That's a tough one. But either way, whatever, like you said, if you think that the game's going to start slow, or you're an under better and you're hoping that it starts slow, then you're obviously looking to get it drawn out as long as possible. But another one I've been looking at is the first penalty of Super Bowl 53. I have a feeling a lot of people will be firing the Rams in this spot because depending on who you ask, as long as they're not a Patriots fan, then Patriots get all the calls. And a lot of people will be betting the Rams because they figure they'll throw a penalty on the Rams, the first accepted penalty. But I'm going to take the Patriots. I feel like for some reason I feel like one of these offensive linemen are going to commit a false start. I don't know why. I mean, I'm not saying the Patriots are going to get the ball first, but for some reason I feel like they're going to get the ball first because they're really good at coin tosses. And if they're not really good at coin tosses, the other team's going to defer. So somehow I find that the Patriots are somehow going to end up with the ball first. And I'm going to say Shaq Mason false starts, giving me the plus 130 right there.
Yeah, I also like that bet of the first penalty being New England. But, however, for the total amount of penalty yards per the game, I like the Rams to have more penalty yards. I believe it's minus 145 in one spot I looked, and that was at Caesars.
That's pretty good considering the Rams are minus 200 here for the most.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I don't like that line. I actually like the other side. I like the Patriots because their secondary just seems to get caught with every defensive pass interference known to fucking man at this point. So that is the kind of thing that's going to drive that total up crazy. The question is going to be Aqib Talib. If he commits one of those giant penalties, he's going to commit 7 of them because he's just such a hothead.
Peter's the same kind of guy, too.
Yeah, so it's the kind of thing where you really have to worry about that and how. But I think Goff is more likely to throw deep downfield than Brady is, which gives the Patriots
that's
that
what
much.
I was about to say, the downfield threats.
Yeah, that's the thing.
The DPI. Good thing Joe Flacco's not in this game.
Oh God, that's his go-to move. Right
That's his signature move, the DPI. The only other one I see here on the front page would be because of Gostkowski's ability to make field goals, long field goals, and obviously we know about Greg the Leg. 33-yard field goal. Will both teams make one? I'm taking the yes at minus 140. I think a lot of drives are going to stall. New England and the Rams both have that bend but don't break kind of mentality on their offense. So I'm going to take both teams making 33 or greater yard field goals. And on the backside of the sheet, you're right. The Josh Reynolds props are kind of juicy. That first one, I don't know if I like the over. I think, like I said, Bill Belichick's going to take away your best weapons. The question is, what is he going to attempt to take away? I believe he's going to more so try to take away Brandon Cooks and Robert Woods, leaving Josh Reynolds kind of free. However, that first reception, I think, to get his feet wet is probably going to be within the 5 to 10-yard range. So I'll take the under on that one. Anybody else on the pink sheets?
I've got one more that I was looking at, and that is total number of sacks in the game is currently sitting at 3.5. And I like the under. New England doesn't sack anybody. That's just not their game plan. They get pressure. They'll put 6 guys in the box and they'll come after the quarterback, but it's not their MO to get sacks. They were something like bottom 3rd in the league in sacks this year. And again, I think if New England can reinforce that offensive line and keep Brady upright with Sue and Darnold coming at them, then I think we might see 1 sack in this game tops.
It's kind of an interesting prop bet I looked at, and Cleo, I'll let you get yours in a second because I know you've been studying since I said, hey, study it.
I got one.
The first kickoff by Steven Gostkowski will result in a touchback. The yes is plus 180, the no is 220. We know he has the leg to do it. It's in a dome. But do you almost feel like you have to take the no because Belichick rarely kicks touchbacks?
Yeah, he's instructed to not kick touchbacks.
But he has kicked them before. I saw it in the Chiefs game.
He has when he knows that there is a return threat that the Patriots can't contain, but that usually happens later in the game. That's not an opening kickoff type play.
Yeah, because I think this Natson guy is probably not too much of a return threat, but I feel like even though it's a tough one, especially after a after a touchdown is booming it out and letting them start from the 25. It's just a weird one to me. That's a tough one to kind of wrap your head around. Anybody else got any thoughts on that?
Just me, with it being so much plus money, I would lean just towards the yes. I see some value in that, but I'm not overly excited about it.
All right, Cleo, you're
I'm looking at Todd Gurley because I don't really know how healthy he really is. I don't know exactly what kind of game he's going to come out with. We got first reception over under 7.5 yards, minus 110. I like the under. I think he can just get stomped first run. And there you go.
Cool.
That easy of a bet.
All right.
1 yard, you win.
One of the bets I consistently get wrong, but shortest touchdown of the game. Anybody got any thoughts on that one? It's 1.5. It's always 1.5 yards.
I know.
And I always want to do the over, but that DPI always kills me.
Yeah.
I like the over.
I like the over as well. I think there's some value even at plus 150 in that. I believe these defensive lines are pretty solid against the matchup of the offensive lines, and we'll be able to stall them or at least push them back another yard and let them score it from the 2.
Yeah, I'm actually taking the under for the specific reason that I took another prop bet on William Hill like earlier this week as soon as I saw the line come out, and that was, will New England Patriots fullback James Devlin score a touchdown? And that motherfucker doesn't have the wheels to run it out from further than 1.5 yards away. So
you took the under?
If he's getting a touchdown, I'm getting 3.5 to 1, and he's going in from 1 yard. So I'm taking the under on this shortest touchdown of the game.
Fair enough. All right, any last pink sheets? We got any pink sheets?
That's it from me.
All right, let's move on to some of the more, I guess they're more of a team kind of prop bet here. And page 4, and you can see where they kind of match up with the other pamphlets. But anything here looking good? I mean, we have the one that always intrigues me is like the 3 straight scores, the 4 unanswered scores. Those always get kind of an interesting. I mean, you can look at it from 2 ways: a blowout kind of brewing, or even a team coming back, trying to get back into a game. The 3 straight times, I believe, is that on here? Yeah, the yes is minus 220, the no plus 180. But the 4 straight times is actually plus 250, no minus 310. And you cannot include extra points and 2-point conversions because those aren't technically scoring plays, even though they do obviously add points. But anybody think that there's going to be kind of a situation where we see a team score 3 or 4 straight times? And is that an actual? I mean, is it if you like the 3, you get the value on the 4? Is that kind of a spot where you would either pay the juice with the 3 or try to take the plus money with the 4?
Me personally, I think I would fade the 4. I don't think 4, but I think 3 could be a possibility.
It's tough to pay 310 though, right?
I think there's some value in that. It's tough to score 4 straight times.
It's true. It really is, actually. I mean, unless you're blowing out a team or attempting to make a comeback. I mean, I think the Chargers actually against the Patriots scored 4 straight times. Another one of these. A lot of these are some field goal props on this one as well. Kind of an interesting one. Again, will a team make a field goal in the first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, or fourth quarter? All different values. I mean, you see the second quarter's got a minus 300 for the yes, but the fourth quarter, where it gets down to crunch time, is only 160. Mm-hmm. Is there any value in betting any of those, even on the no? Is there any value in betting the no in any of those spots? Like the third quarter seems like a spot where I would want to probably do that.
I would say that's probably the most likely of the no would be the third quarter. I think either the teams behind is either going to try and get the touchdown instead of the field goal. If they get a 4th and short from inside deep their opponent territory, they might go for it and try and get the TD. And if they get stopped, then they turn the ball over, and that will lead towards the other team running the clock down and all that. I think plus 110's decent value in that.
It'd be interesting you line it up with like 3 seconds left for a field goal and it gets blocked. That'd be great. All right, this is an interesting one. It may have existed before, but I've never seen it before. The total yardage of all made field goals in a game set at 122.5. Tony Johnson, what do you think about that? So that's kind of a tough one to handicap.
I would definitely agree. I think all of the field goal props, I mean, we could say that about probably a fair amount of props, that they are tough to sort of figure out. But the field goal ones really come down to whether a team is converting on third down and whether they're able to get the ball in the end zone, obviously, versus having to settle for field goals, and that's a tough thing to know sort of before the game gets going. And so that's why I usually avoid most of the whether there's a field goal versus touchdown type of props. But for this game, I think especially we need to take a look back at what the total is in the game and what's expected, from both of these offenses. And I think while I'm not a fan of betting the over in this game, but the line is pretty legit and set at 57 or whatever it is. You're going to have to expect a lot of points, and to get a lot of points in a game, it's going to have to be many more touchdowns versus field goals. So while scoring, yes, will happen, I think that we have to recognize the fact that both of these teams have very, very good offenses, and they are quite good at converting when needed. They're here for a reason. This is not 1984 football where it's like a defensive situation and you're playing outdoors in New York or something like that, and it's just going to be one of these grind fests, ridiculous games. This is an indoor game with two legit, very good offenses. So for me, I'm going to be on the in doubt in these field goal props, whether it's longest field goal, short. I want to be on the under in the majority of these things because I just don't think there's going to be
enough
all that many.
opportunities.
Yes, the opportunities themselves. I like both kickers. I especially like the kicker in LA.
Well, certainly, he's got the leg for sure. I mean, kick the
Right.
57-yarder to get to the Super Bowl.
Exactly. So, I mean, I'd be on the under, especially the prop that you made. If I had to bet on one of these, the old gun to the head one, I would take the total yardage of all field goals in the game, 122.5, and I will definitely be on the under if I have to bet on one of these props in regards to the field goals.
Now, Cleo, I'm looking at the very next prop bet right under the one I just talked about. And, Tony Johnson's sitting here talking about offensive firepower, fireworks, shootout, all the buzzwords. But then you look at a total like this, total yardage of all the touchdowns in the game, and it's only 87.5. Doesn't really seem that high. What do you make of this one?
I thought the same thing. I think it's pretty low because I think the over will hit. We're looking for lots of touchdowns, obviously, and at 87.5, I mean, Sony Michel, even Todd Gurley could have a great game.
James Devlin.
Edelman.
Yes.
Edelman can go, 2 touchdowns even. Who knows? There's just so many options. I don't think taking the under is the smartest bet. Both minus 110. I like the over 87.5.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, especially we're talking about, looking at the deep threats for New England. I mean, what do you have? You have Philip Dorsett. That's not something to really feel good about, hang your head on. But, I mean, all the deep threats for Los Angeles, it's a weird number. I mean, it's tough to say because, like you said, if the Patriots come out and establish a run game, a lot of their touchdowns are going to be from within 10 yards. But a lot of the places, the average touchdown prop bet is 6 to 6.5. So if you figure 87 divided by 6, I'm not really a super mathematician. Spike, what do you got there? What does that equal to?
Lots.
Like 15 yards, 15 yards a touchdown on average. 15 times 6 is 90. So yeah, just a little bit under that.
Yeah, about 13 or
so.
so.
I mean, if you're talking about 6 touchdowns in this game, you're talking about all of them from an average of over 15 yards. It's a funky prop. It's going to be an interesting one to.
It's more about how many touchdowns you think will be scored in the game.
Right. Well, obviously,
And
if you think there's only going to be 3, then you would love the under.
And that's part of the problem is that if you're betting the over in this game, especially if you want to tease it or please it down to like the 70.5, which I think was the highest alternate total that we saw, then clearly you're taking over in the total yards scored for the touchdowns there.
Well, the sick thing would be is if you thought it was going to be a low-scoring game, like I know like Tony Johnson likes the under in this game, and then Sonny Michel busts a 99-yard run. How gross would that be? Oh, man, that would be something sick. Another one I like here, and I'll let you guys kind of take a second to tell me what you guys like, is the largest lead of the game by either team at 14.5 points. I can see that situation where the game might be close, but at some point in time, one of the teams may have taken a little bit larger of a lead because, this bet would have been great in like the Baltimore Ravens, San Francisco 49ers Super Bowl when the lights went out, when the Ravens got up by like 24 points and all of a sudden Beyonce shut the whole thing down. But that's an interesting one for me. Like, if you believe it's going to be a close game neck and neck, like Tony Johnson, you were saying, back and forth, keeping it real close, then obviously you can find a little bit of value there at plus 110.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely pretty much where I stand as well. Again, it's another one of those bets. I think that we importantly said that it is a tough bet to really get a full handle on. I think if you're really trying to dig deep and do some research and have some fun with it, these are the type of bets that you probably should avoid and just maybe make these for possibly a smaller amount that you might for bets that you can get a much better handle on, because obviously there's so many different factors and so many different variables to this specific bet. Whereas if you're looking at a specific player, whether they score a touchdown or whether they have so many yards or whatever, you can really kind of take a little bit of a closer look and zero in on a player. And I think it's a little bit easier to get some stability there. Whereas this type of bet, really, as you said, you get the quick 99-yard run, and all of a sudden, you can
tear that ticket up.
Yeah, so that's my only take.
That might be one of those token where I would tear the ticket up right there. I know we always talk about don't tear your tickets up, especially the guy in the poker room who had the Patriots. What do you have? The Patriots money line in that Atlanta Super Bowl.
It was that,
and he tore it up.
And then the Patriots against the Steelers when they thought the touchdown was scored right before they reversed it, yeah.
So, all right, what about you guys on my left here? Anything in these team prop area of I don't know if it's like, let's call them the distance props because it's kind of a little bit of all that.
Good. Oh, I'm going. All right, so I'm going. There's actually two, but
There's confusion.
One of them I don't actually see at the Superbook. I've seen it at stations, and I think I saw it at MGM too. The first one is team to score first. I'm actually liking the Rams in this spot. Again, I think the Patriots getting off to a slow start is going to be an issue. I think getting them, yeah.
You said you didn't see it in the Superbook.
No, the other one that I haven't yet mentioned, I haven't seen at the Superbook yet. You sarcastic fucking prick.
Wow, that was aggressive.
I think the Rams being able to get off to a different start, and again, Patriots adjusting, I think that gives them the better chance to score first. The one that I didn't see at the Superbook, and maybe I missed it, but it was...
Kid's got 4 eyes, can't see the props.
It was...
Surgery not on his brain, apparently.
Oh, no, go ahead. You know we're all going to be like...
Yeah, go. I want you to, because if you find it, I want to get a better line than what I'm seeing at
all right, what do you got?
Team to score first wins the game. And no at stations is plus 150. And
I feel like I saw that, but maybe not.
And that is where I'm leaning. I think the Rams, even if they are able to score first, I think Brady, being the comeback kid that he is, I think he has the ability to come in, shock LA, be able to put up points in bunches, and if New England's defense can stop LA from running up the score, then I think that's going to bode well for both of those bets.
Fair enough. What
they
about
got one, page 28, since we're on this result, they actually have it where you can bet on all the different variants of this, whether a team scores first and they win the game, or they score first and lose the game. It's really nicely set up by the Westgate, really. So page 28, down a little bit, you can bet on all 4 different variants of it.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Oh, there you go. Patriots score first and win. Patriots score first and lose. And vice versa.
So the Rams in this, Rams score first, Rams lose the game, going off at 7-2.
Oddly, the favorite is Rams score first and Rams win. Interesting.
Huh.
Well, slightly the Patriots.
Well, yeah, no, I'm sorry. I didn't read that right. You were correct. That is...
just slightly worse odds, yeah.
That is interesting. So, yeah, that's an interesting one. So. And not only do they have that bet, they have a whole page of that bet.
Yeah. Which I'm sure we're getting to around 3 or 4 in the morning.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
PTA, yes.
All right. So what's on these team total, these distance props or these total props that you like?
I like on the Patriots to score in the first quarter.
Interesting. They don't do that a lot.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I really think they could. These teams could start off hot, and I think Tom Brady could go out there and just get a quick touchdown. And going back to what I said before, that's why I like the over/under at 10.5 first quarter. I like the over on that. One of these that I was really looking at here, I was interested what you guys thought. Will there be overtime? Yes, plus 700.
You can find that in a better spot, I think, too, in some places.
Is there some better ones?
I thought Caesars had it at 9-1. You saw the Caesars?
Oh, wow.
650.
650? Okay.
Yeah.
Now, somebody had it at 9-1, I thought.
I've been hearing a lot of talk that a lot of people, a lot of sharks, they like that bet.
A lot of people are on that.
Yeah.
Which is weird because I think only 3 Super Bowls have gone to overtime.
That is 1 Super Bowl that's gone to overtime.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Just kidding. Just 1 Super Bowl's gone to overtime, and that was the Patriots-Falcons game.
Yes, correct.
So, wow. Okay, so that's a tough one. I mean,
Pretty good value, right? Plus 700.
I can't imagine that's good enough value for 1 out of 53 Super Bowls to go to overtime. I feel like I should be getting 10-1 or better on my money in that spot. The question would be is if you're 1 out of 53 and you fire the no like Floyd Mayweather style, that might be the bet.
You're for sure losing that one.
No, am I? I got a 1 in 53 shot. It's interesting, yeah. The other one would be is the game decided by exactly 3 points? Because Spike, you know all too well, the first 3 Super Bowls won by the Patriots were all decided by.
That would be 3 points.
So that'd be an interesting one, especially.
Yeah.
And one of those was Patriots-Rams, the Adam Vinatieri. I think that was their first one. Was it the first Super Bowl they won?
First Super Bowl they won, 3rd they had been to in franchise history.
True. Yes, that is correct. So, yeah, that's an interesting one, too. You're getting plus 375 to get the game scored exactly by a field goal. So, yeah, let's look at another couple of these, like, scoring props, because it goes from 3, 6, 7, 10, 14. So, You're talking about kind of those alternate point spreads, Tony. This kind of almost looks at it as well. Spreads are a little different than hitting a game exactly on the head, but here we touch on all the key numbers, 3, 6, 7, 10, and 14. Any of those kind of intrigue you? Because there's some big plus numbers on those.
I had not actually evaluated those, to be quite honest with you, all that well. But, yeah, and that's... We get back to the point, at least more for me, that these are really, really just hard to... I'm struggling enough just trying to figure out exactly kind of how I think this game flow will go and, you know, what's going on versus, you know, having a game decided by an exact number is...
ludicrous, yeah.
I mean, I hate to use that word because I think we should encourage, you know, people find a bet. They think it's, you know, a legit thing. Like you said, the overtime versus non-overtime. It may have happened only one time in the last, 52 Super Bowls, but there's a lot of people that love it and think there's a decent chance here. So, you know, again, I don't want to be a detractor, you know, because the game is the game. But for me, I don't see a whole lot of value here. And you really can't be betting the nose because if you're betting the nose on these things, you're laying
super juice.
Yeah, you just. I mean, do you really want to be, you know, ponying up, you know, $200, $300, $400 just to win, you know, kind of a slight amount on the back end? To me, that's not. There's better ways to be utilizing your money. So
right.
the only way would be to find a yes here, and I can't wrap my head around that. This is above my pay grade, if you will. My pay grade is already quite low. So, yeah.
I mean, I think the only one you can go with is, like you said, you talking about, you know, the alternate point lines with the 14.5. I mean, if you get beat by the hook and you bet this, at least maybe you can hit your 14 point in that spot with a plus 1,200. Another couple of interesting props I like here is the first turnover of the game. A lot of people, obviously, based on the 150, would believe it's an interception in this spot, but I mean the fumble's not bad value token at plus 130 in this.
No, I absolutely agree with that. I do believe there's more likely a possibility of fumble, especially with these big defensive front guys causing the pressure against these weaker offensive linemen.
That being said, Cleo, I mean, I kind of like the both. I like the over in the interceptions prop, 1.5.
Yeah.
I think if Jared Goff has a bad game, I think Brady might even be good for one pick.
Look at even Brady last game.
He almost had 3.
One of his interceptions got turned one in his favor, right?
The offsides one got turned in his favor. But if that one would have stood, he would have had 3 picks.
Exactly, and I agree. I do like the interception there. But good value with the fumble as well.
Yeah, I think the value there with the fumble. I mean, if both teams look to establish a run, I mean that's where your fumbles come into play, and especially now with the new catch rules, the catch is happening faster with the hit coming around. All he has to do is make a step or two. I've seen a lot of fumbles where wide receivers have made a catch in an active football play, and then they're getting popped right there, and the ball's coming out. Couple of completion ones here. Spike Brady, 37.5 pass attempts. Based on the way you see this game going, how's that number kind of react to you?
Not one that I'm going to touch based on the fact that it's minus 110 either side. If I were getting plus number on the under, I might consider it, but as it stands, I wouldn't. I don't think I'd touch it. Actually, the one that I'm looking at on this page is not for either quarterback in particular, but a total number of different players to have a passing attempt.
We've seen that one a lot before, especially with Edelman in the game.
Yeah, but now that we know Edelman can throw, we know Hecker can throw, and we know McVay, being the youngest head coach in Super Bowl history, may want to kind of show off that he's got the cojones to go for something like that. I think the over 2.5 at plus 110 looks pretty good to me.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I think I did have that bet in the last Super Bowl too.
Yeah, I think the last few, Edelman's thrown a pass, Dilly or the Philly special, what's-his-face threw a pass to Foles.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you're right. I mean, it's an interesting one. One I'd like to see, and it's a hard prop bet to obviously pay attention to unless you're at the game, but I would like to submit this to one of the William Hill or something, is how many times, I don't know the guy's name, but the get-back coach has to pull McVay back off the sidelines. That'd be an interesting one for me.
The over is probably a heavy favorite.
Now, here's the one I kind of like as well. Like, okay, so here we have 2 different versions of the 2-point conversion prop bet. Will there be an attempt? The yes, plus 145, the no, minus 170. But will there be a successful one is plus 250, no, minus 310. Do you kind of parlay both of them? Obviously, you can't specifically parlay them, but I mean, in a situation where you believe there'll be a successful attempt, or if you believe there'll be an attempt, wouldn't you also throw a bet on the successful?
That's what I was just thinking.
Yeah,
Yep.
kind of double down on your money there in that spot. But 310's a lot to lay the other way. But I think if you think there's going to be a 2-point conversion attempt, I wouldn't mind throwing a little extra on the plus 250. Anybody?
Well, one thing I noticed on that, since you mentioned that, is if a defensive 2-point conversion is
excluded, yeah,
excluded. So
that's a minuscule amount of. I mean, how often does that happen? But I get what you're saying.
But there is that potential for if there is a 2-point conversion, if that happens, then
yeah, that would suck. But
yeah.
I mean, at least I know that ahead of time going into it.
Yeah.
It's a good spot with these two coaches here that are very much willing to go for fourth downs.
If Mike Tomlin was in this game, I'd be pounding the yes on Kirk conversion attempt. I swear to God, he went for it every other time.
Yeah, I think these are two good coaches here that will take some risk. They'll go for it on fourth down a bunch. They certainly may try to convert, make 2-point conversions in the non-traditional sense, where it is obvious to do so. I think these are coaches that push the envelope on offense with decision making. So yeah, this is definitely a spot where if you're trying to find some plus money lines and make a little money go a long way, I think this would be definitely a spot to do so.
All right, any underbackers got an interest in the scoreless quarter? Well, at least one quarter be scoreless. Yes, plus 400. Is that something that maybe you'd be interested in looking at? I got to imagine people who think the under, there could be a situation where we don't see any scoring. Plus 400 is not bad value.
Possible. It'd probably be most likely the first quarter, I think, that most would say. I mean, if you can get a replica of that Atlanta game 2 years ago, that would be nice. But, yeah, I don't know. I'm not really sure. That's tough. At only 4-1, it's almost a guarantee that the second quarter and fourth quarter are going to have scoring. They're just always going to have, be heavier scoring than the other two. Maybe you get a slow start to the second half in the third quarter, but that's a tough one to me. I actually don't think that's nearly enough at plus 400. I want to see that in the at least 6 or 7-1 range there.
All right, let's move on to player props, which I know Tony Johnson is salivating in the mouth, and I know a lot of us are looking at these, and you guys have done more due diligence on these than I have. But the first one I'm looking at, very first one right off the bat, and it can be confusing to a lot of people, especially recreational bettors. Will Tom Brady score a touchdown? Obviously, people who are more versed know that that's obviously a rushing touchdown. But can you imagine a lot of people betting that, and then when he throws a pass to whoever, thinking that they got 500 on that one? You can see the confusion with that, right?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
I mean, if that's Tom Brady scoring a touchdown through the air, then that's easy money in that spot. But I have a feeling that there's going to be some idiot out there that's going to bet that, thinking it's just a touchdown in general. Spike.
Hey.
They'll catch a few people with that. I don't think there's any question.
All right, Sony Michel's your guy, Cleo, and there's a lot going on for Sony Michel here on this first page.
Yeah, I was just looking at. Will Sony Michel score a touchdown? Minus 120, yes. If the Pats get on the board as many times as I think they will, Sony Michel is going to be a part of that. So definitely yes on that. Let's see another one real quick on here.
An interesting one is the total receiving yards by Sony Michel, half. Doesn't catch a lot of passes.
No.
But you got to think he may be good for one. But
more White's job, right?
It is White's job, obviously, yeah, for sure. But, I mean, at 110 either way, probably not the greatest value. You're literally flipping a coin if he's going to catch a pass. And God forbid he actually catches a pass. It's 2-yard backfield, 2-yard loss.
You'd want to be on the receptions, really, because it's the same number, a half at minus 110.
Oh, there you go. So you'd rather have his receptions than his yards. And
will Sony Michel score a touchdown in the first and second half? A yes at a plus 600.
Oh, wow.
I kind of like that.
Yeah, I see some value in that.
I do. I see some good value in that.
Potential for breakout run.
I mean, a minus 900 for a no, I'd be really scared to bet that.
It's true. I mean, especially like you said, they established the run in both halves. They control this game. He seems like he would be a factor in that bet. Another problem is though, like 17.5 seems like a good number too for his actual rushing attempts. Last week against the Chiefs, he was virtually non-existent, Spike, against the Chiefs in the second half. And many people are saying it's an injury. Many people are just saying they gave Rex Burkhead. Rex Burkhead was running well.
Yeah, and that's sort of the Belichick-McDaniels mantra, is that they're not going to use somebody that they know that they can use later on because they don't want to give away too much. Like, they're not the type of team that's going to feature one back for 4 quarters because they know that that's going to burn through the playbook a lot quicker than it would if they were
burn through a running back.
Right. Yeah. So they're more than willing to do something like that, and that's fine with me. I'm happy to let Sony Michel run wild in this game. I'm not sure he's going to go as crazy as like Cleo thinks, but I think he's definitely going to get some yards. But I think this is going to be, the Brady versus Goff shootout type game more than anything else.
Yeah, a prop I'm looking at here is Brady, and it's actually, I looked at it, I had to do a double take. The first one says total touchdown passes by Tom Brady, over under 2 is minus 110 either way. But the very next prop underneath it, total touchdown passes by Tom Brady, 2.5, the over's plus 170. And the under's actually 200 in this spot. So literally risking not taking the push, you can actually get 80 cents worth of value in this spot. Is that anything that's worth jumping on, especially if you think...
If you really believe he throws for 3 or more touchdowns.
Yeah. Against the Eagles, I think he threw for 4 or 5.
Yeah.
So it's just an interesting thought right there. To jump off of the push, you're going to get... or if you're an under guy, if you think he's going to have under 2, you have to pay 90 cents in juice. Do you just risk the push in that spot, Tony?
You would. Possibly, yes. I'm on the camp of, I'm glad you brought this one up, actually. I've got a few here that I'm waiting on, because I do think that there will be some Tom Brady love money that comes in here as this week progresses, and I am waiting to bet this under at 2.5. I'm not as big of a fan of the 2 number because I think that, to me, based on my general, of evaluating the game, I think that's the most likely scenario, that he throws for exactly 2. So I want to be able to get that as a win and not a push. So I'm evaluating this from all kinds of different places. So the current line at Westgate is actually it's down to 190, and then Will Hill has 175, and then Caesars has 160. There's just all kinds of different numbers there. So My thought is in the 130 to 140 range. I'm willing to lay a little bit of a money line here with this one.
With the 2.5?
Yes. I like the under 2.5 here. And that's just sort of where I'm at. There's very few books like Westgate here, like you just described, that are doing, different amount of touchdowns for the same quarterback. So usually most of the books are just hanging the 2.5, and then, you have to deal with it. So it's kind of nice that they're giving you an option. I'm absolutely in the camp of the underpass touchdown passes for both quarterbacks, actually, for both Goff. I've been able to bet the Goff one already, but for Brady as well. Again, this just goes back to the theme of how I think the game's going to go, the lack of scoring, the grindiness, et cetera, et cetera. So, and I just want to quickly add, just briefly, because this is one of my, if not the favorite bet of the entire sheet, and that's Brady's passing yards. Which I know we had skipped over a few of the early ones, and this is one of those that we've talked about. Whether if you have the time or not, if you don't, then don't worry about it. You get it where you get it at. But if you can shop around, this one ranges from a huge, like a 10+ yard amount. It opened at 282 at Westgate. What we see here, it's now at 295. Moved up quite a bit. And you can get numbers from 302. I see a 299. There's 294s out there.
You got 282 here at the Westgate.
Yeah, it's now up to 295. So that's the current
at
line.
The Westgate. Wow,
yeah, it's moved 13 yards. So I like the under here. I was able to find a 302 at Will Hill. So a couple of good reasons for this one, I think, is that he didn't throw for over 300 yards very much even in the regular season. He only did it 5 times out of 16 games. 3 of those were at home. 2 were to teams that won less than 5 games during the season. So I just think it comes down to the fact that this is a team that can't stretch the field very much. We talked about a little bit in earlier podcasts about losing Gordon for the season and how he was really the only guy that was able to succinctly stretch the field. And I think it's tough when you have to dink and dunk as much as it usually is. It's tough to get big passing yard numbers, especially against a defense that I think is going to look a lot better than the couple of the others that they've just recently seen. So, to me, this one's about as slam dunky as it gets here. I really like.
Oh no, you're gonna use the L word.
No. I'm just that's as close. That's as close as I'll get.
So I'm gonna take yours. I'm gonna take your etymology, slam dunky, as lock.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying it's a lock. I'm just to me it's
more likely.
Yeah, it's the number that makes a lot of sense to be betting, and I'm not
It's
saying
a lot of yards, even in today's offensive.
Exactly, and just for the variety of ways this game can play out, it is more likely than not that he doesn't have a blowout, big time.
I agree with Tony.
That's just the only way I'm saying. Could he throw for 400? Absolutely, he can. I mean, of course, he's capable of it. He just did it last year.
For 5 and change.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to the more likely than not scenario. To me, this is the one that's quantifiable. Very much so. I think this is one of your better bets that you're going to have on the sheet. That's my only opinion.
That's kind of an interesting thing, considering like a lot of people are looking for a shootout. And even if they weren't in a situation where the Rams get ahead, I mean, it's tough. Like you said, Brady threw for 5 and change last year and in a loss. So it's an interesting one.
It can happen.
All right, the next 2 sheets here are prop bets for. We got Michelle, White, Burkhead, Edelman. What do we have? Gronk, Spike's boy Devlin, Hogan, and my boy Dorsett. Unfortunately, we don't have my boy Dwayne Allen in his half-yard proposition that I got wrong last year. But all right, let's look at Patriot player props. Is anybody on any Patriot player props?
I like Edelman. I like total receptions over 6.5. Again, this is me going off of how I think the Patriots are going to play the game. I really like that bet. It's just normal minus 110.
Yeah, I was going to
mention
nothing
special on it, but. What do you guys think about that?
I was going to agree with that, Cleo. I really like that one. I think with the linebacking core of the Rams, that they're going to struggle through the middle part of the field, and that's where Edelman
he just has so much experience. I mean, Tom's going to want to go to him. He's
even in triple coverage. I mean, I think he gets a few.
I think the real question is who's going to cover him, and if he's got Marcus Peters on him, even to extent to keep Talib.
Who's getting older though? And.
Yeah, I understand. But they both played pretty well, though. It's hard. 6.5 is a lot of catches, even for a guy who is a possession receiver like Edelman. I was going to take the under on him in the last game, and I got it wrong. But again, Kansas City's defense really had nobody to cover.
7 and 9 his last 2. Have I looked at?
So I mean, it's a tough one. But yeah, Edelman 6.5. That's a good number right there. That's a tough one to really say. Total receptions. This is an interesting one. Total receptions by James White 4.5. That's an interesting one. It looks like they're baiting you to take the under there in that spot, but I mean, I can't imagine unless James White gets pummeled by Ndamukong Suh. I mean, he's kind of the offense from the short game.
Well, I'm grabbing the over in that, and I'm also grabbing the unders for total rushing yards by White and total rushing attempts by White.
Now the question is, can you find it better than 150 at any of the other books at this point?
That's what you'd have to really shop around to see.
200 now, just so you know, the over on Westgate.
Fuck, dude.
On Westgate, it's good.
So it's already gone up 50 cents.
Minus 200 plus 170 for the under.
Yeah. Fuck, yeah. I mean, that's
the plus 170 feels a little better now too.
It does, but he's going to be used in the passing attack, probably not the running attack, if at all, in the running games. And we've seen what Michelle can do. We've seen what Burkhead can do. If White gets a carry, he might get 1 or 2. Devlin might get 1 or 2. Even Patterson or Edelman might get 1 or 2. These are the types of plays that the Patriots throw out there. I don't think White is a feature enough running back that I think that the under 3.5 rushing attempts makes a lot more sense.
All right, fair enough. I'm going to go and bring up my boy Gronk, because we've had a long, volatile discussion about him. 49.5, that's an interesting one for me. Again, we talk about who's going to cover who. I imagine Talib and Peters are going to be on Hogan and Edelman. Who's going to cover Gronk? Is it going to be Littleton or Little John or whatever his name is? No, I think his name is actually, is it Littleton?
I think it's Littleton, yeah.
Okay, I mean, he's a candidate to cover Gronk, but I mean, again, who can cover Gronk at that point? I still think Gronk's got it. You guys, unfortunately, disagree with me. Oh, Cleo, see?
I'm with you.
Like this guy.
I'm with you. I don't think he has it obviously like he used to, but
No, he's not
going
all
to come out
world,
for a
but-
big Super Bowl game.
Yeah.
And so you got to kind of go with that.
He's been pretty quiet in Super Bowls, the ones that he's played. A couple he's been hurt in and hasn't played, but the ones he's played in have been quiet.
Well, this could be his last one, right?
Could be. There's been talk, and Tony over here believes he's done after this one. So
Yeah, this is bet number 2 here. I'll just jump in of what I think is absolutely another
Slam
relatively easy. Yeah, I mean this is
what's the prop bet? Is Rob Gronkowski done? Yes, minus 1,000.
Oh yeah, if he retires, yeah, I do think he'll retire at the end, whether they win or lose. But his number's currently at 52, so it has gone up here at the Westgate, but it is all over the map depending on where you go. I've seen 53, and there's even a 54 at Cantor, which.
Venetian.
Which is where I ended up at. So I do have the under 54 here. I was really happy he had a game where there were some receiving yards, and I knew after New England won this game, I was very happy because I was really hoping he went down to 43 or 44 for his prop in the previous game. So I was hoping it would get back up over the 50 range. I'd be able to hit it blindly, and this is just blind. Without anything needed, he's a shell of himself as a player, and it's a lot of yards for a guy where the ball gets distributed, amongst, as we know, many players in this offense.
Players usually.
And I just want to be on unders with guys that are not at their full capability, and the number is high enough to where we can just let it ride and go.
Do you think he can still have the over 3.5 receptions though, and just still stay under that 49.5 or whatever the number?
Yeah, I think it's possible. I'm actually looking at the receiving yards. That's another bet that I'm waiting it out. I'm hoping I can find a 4 somewhere and bet an under reasonably. There's a 4 minus 140 at Will Hill. I'm hoping that comes down a little bit. So yes, I agree with you, but I just don't think he's going to be targeted all that often, and it's not as likely. Now, can he have a couple of catches for 50 yards because he breaks, a few tackles and runs for yeah, absolutely he can, and that's the beauty, I guess, of betting. But
what does the 20-yard reception then go hand in hand with that then? Because you could see him, and then the Chargers game, high. 1 catch for 25 yards. He broke out a little bit against the Chiefs.
One of the last plays, that 25-yard floater they just threw.
Absolutely, and that's why the number's so high, and that's why I don't want anything to do with that longest reception over-under, because I think you guys are exactly right.
Yeah.
That it is certainly possible that he could have a long one, but I just can't see him being a focal point of this offense.
I do agree with you.
You were so close, Cleo. You were the chosen one.
Well, he's right.
Choose me.
All right, so that's anybody else on any of these player props here?
I knew you'd be on the bright side for that. Thank you.
Shut the fuck up. Anybody else? Patriot player props? Any? Chris Hogan got no love. He's a wild card though. He disappears. But in the game against Atlanta, I think he had 12 or 13 catches.
Tom's going to use that to his advantage though.
Maybe. You never know who's going to make... That's the tough thing about props. You never know who's going to make the impact. Philip Dorsett has a 2-game touchdown streak. That's my boy. Josh Gordon. Diet Josh Gordon. All right, team props here with the Patriots. Anybody like anything? Will Ryan Allen punt the touchback? That's an interesting one. But anybody like any of these team props here? You got Ryan Allen a little bit on the punting props. I leave my expertise on punting to Spike over here. Spike,
or those two guys that just couldn't stop talking about it.
Well, Spike was so enamored by that podcast. He was just waiting on bended knees.
Really, the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life.
All right, any Gostkowski or Allen props? Anybody in for that?
I like the under on Allen. I don't think he'll have more than 4 or more punts. I like the under 3.5. I do believe that with the Rams' weak linebacking core, as well as they bend a little, but they don't fully break. I don't see him punting even more than 2 times. I think they get down the field, get a few field goal attempts at least, or even put it in the end zone. So
here's a team prop I'm kind of intrigued about, and maybe somebody can kind of shine a little light on this. The total number of Patriots to have a rushing attempt is 5.5.
Wow.
So I'm looking at this. Obviously, it would have to be a wacky one, but okay, you have Brady. He could have a rushing attempt. Mm-hmm. You have White, Michelle, and Burkhead. Mm-hmm. You have Patterson. So even if all 5 of those guys get involved in the rushing game, you would legitimately have to have an Edelman or Hogan.
Devlin.
Oh, yeah, Devlin. Yeah, that's true. But even then, it's like...
That's what I was waiting for, yes.
Yeah, he's just been clinging to that one.
I know, that's why I was going to say it.
I'm like, hey, I text Mike, hey, you done your research? Yeah, if it's got Devlin on it, I'm all in. It's just the under is 150.
I like that.
To me, it feels like easy money, but again, we know betting. But I'm just saying, it feels like easy money to me. No, crazy.
I'm with you.
For the are we talking about?
I'm talking about for the under. Yeah.
Oh no, I'd be on the other side if I had to because of all the names.
Well,
that
we talked about White probably is not going to get a carry. Cordero might.
One carry? We're just talking about one carry.
He didn't get any. He hasn't had any carries in the postseason yet, if I'm not mistaken.
No. He had some carries.
Find me some stats from the Chargers and the Chiefs game. I know he had no carries against the Chiefs, but I'm pretty sure he had no carries against the Chargers.
I thought he had a couple. I thought he had at least 2. I don't know.
I'm 99% confident about the Chiefs game,
so.
Unless it's Darren Sproles, right?
Patriots. That's where he had the carries against Kansas City. He had 6 against Kansas City.
Did he? He had nothing against the Chargers.
He had nothing against the Chargers. Okay, yeah. Well, I knew he had a bunch somewhere. I thought for sure it was the Chargers.
Actually, I thought he had no carries against Kansas City, so I was flipped.
Yeah, he's had a carry in every game this year, besides the Chargers game. So
okay, so again, like if you got the 3-headed monster, maybe Cordero gets a carry. I can't see Tom getting a carry unless it's a sneak, but that's obviously on the table.
A sneak, or he gets pressured into a run.
You never know. I mean, those things are hard. They're almost impossible.
He's not. Yeah, well, that's true. Then maybe you flip my theory here. Maybe the over might be good.
The Patriots did have 6 people with a rushing attempt in the game against the Chargers. Michelle, Burkhead, Edelman, Devlin, Patterson, Brady.
Wow, without James White, they had 6. That's amazing.
Brady.
Wow. So maybe I'm wrong. The free money might be on the other side there. Interesting.
Or there's no free money in this one either.
Well, I'm just saying. Like I said, it felt like free money at minus 150 at that point. So
now we kind of change your mind on
6
that.
again there.
Yep.
Maybe actually.
Well,
I'm winning them
all. This was final game of the regular season. Patriots against the Jets. They had 6 rushing attempts again, or 6 different people attempt a rushing play. Michelle, White, Edelman, Dorsett, Burkhead, Brian Hoyer.
Wow! Take a knee.
Yep, taking a knee.
Took a knee.
Nasty one. I like it.
So knee counts as a rush.
Yeah, it does. 1 rush, 2 yards, or negative 2 yards.
4?
Yeah.
4.
4
last game. That's
Against the
probably why I
Chiefs?
said 5.5, maybe.
Yeah.
4 against the Chiefs.
Just so everybody
number.
knows, the current line is the over 5.5 is plus 150.
So it's even bigger now.
Yeah.
And 170 for the under?
180.
180 for the under?
Wow. That changes things.
I don't feel great about that anymore. Yeah.
I would lean
You guys are
more.
right with the line movement, though. I'll give you credit.
I would lean more towards the over at plus 150 in that spot.
I've changed to that now.
Added value.
Just took 20 points a move.
Why don't we
Added
just
value.
I know.
I love it.
Why don't we just preface this?
Damn right it's about value. I love it.
Let's preface this whole
Absolutely
podcast
is.
by saying that it can go either way for all these fucking bro.
We all know that, though, from experience. So.
110. Speaking of it can go either way. Will the Patriots score in all 4 quarters, Spike? There doesn't feel like much. There's obviously no value to bet this. It's a curious prop bet.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Without having the value there, I'm not touching it one way or the other. I think I actually had it circled on stations as a yes, just because I'm an asshole. But
even then, I think that's it's hard to do. It's hard to do both of those things. Like one of those, I feel like should be plus money.
yeah,
Should we play guess the line movement game? One of these spots is minus 160 now. Which one is it?
I'm going to say the no.
Who else? Anyone else want to
I will say no because a lot of public money's been coming on the under. So
Anybody else want to venture a guess?
I'd have to say the no then as well.
Spike, are you in or are you not?
I will
He
say
just wants
on
to know James Devlin's numbers.
yes,
I will say on stations the yes is plus 130, no minus 160.
It's fucking cheating, man.
It's not cheating.
But you're talking about Westgate line movement.
I understand. Yes, you guys are correct. It is
Yeah.
the no. The no is minus 160 now.
yeah. With so much money coming on the under and driving that line down, it made sense.
There you go.
Yeah. But in that spot with getting plus 130, I might look at the yes on that.
All right, let's look at a few defensive props. There's not like a whole lot here as far as there's a couple guys here. We have a little bit of penalties too as well. All of the defensive props basically focus on Kyle Van Noy, Patrick Chung, Devin McCourty, Trey Flowers, Hightower, Gilmore, and Jonathan Jones. At least right here. There may be some more going down. We're only on page 11 at this point. Defensive props, quarterback sacks by New England's defense. They've been able to get to the quarterbacks this postseason. The 1.5. We can check obviously the line movement on Westgate's app, but 1.5. The overs minus 180 in this spot.
Yeah, I really like the over in this spot. I do believe that offensive line of LA's a little vulnerable, as well as giving up a few blitzes that will be critical in some spots and allowing pressure to get to Goff.
Spike's definitely on the under, I can tell you that for sure.
Yep.
Getting a plus 150 especially, too.
Definitively, yeah.
Well, yeah, especially since it's on the under 3.5 sacks, too.
Has Goff ran at all? He got 6.5 yards, so
it can't be much.
Yeah,
it's more than Brady, but it can't be much.
Another bet I have already. We haven't gotten to it. I've already made the bet on it. Yes, I have the under there.
I want to hear what you have to say.
All right, well, here, let's look at, we've got a bunch of Jared Goff props right here.
I'm curious about that one.
I'll let you start with your Jared Goff props. Anybody else see anything they like? After Tony explains himself, you can jump in.
Yeah, no, this one is again, I think, a relatively straight up one. I try to keep the player prop ones at least simplistic. I don't want to do too much here, and you start to get in the world of weirdo props, and you're just going to get sucked in, and it's tough. So I wanted to find an under here, so I just shopped around for a number, and it's currently at 8 or 8.5, I should say, and it is 8.5 everywhere else as well. So it's 110 straight up, and Goff is kind of a guy that he's going to get a couple. He usually gets a few. Gets flushed out. He's still a youngish quarterback in the sense that when he leaves the pocket, he can sometimes freak out a little bit and just sort of jump forward. But to me, I think this is going to be more of a game where a lot more, standard play. I think there will not be a lot of complete breakdown and large plays. Again, this is all stemming from, I hate to just beat a broken record here, but it's just stemming from the sense that I think this is going to be a little bit lower scoring, a little bit more methodical. And, there might be a rush, randomly to get a few yards, a quarterback sneak type of move. But I'm definitely here on the under for sure. I think there's a decent chance that it's also a potential 0 rushes, for 0 yards. I'm hoping that there's a chance that maybe he's at 9 or 10 or something like that, and we get maybe a couple kneel downs at the end of the game, and I can sneak one in. It's always fun to win like that. But, just to go to your point, Cleo, to me this is... We've seen the last couple of games. I think he had 10 yards last game. He had 12 yards the game before. People are this recency bias. People saw him rush 6 times against Dallas, and this is not going to look like Dallas. Dallas had a lot of defensive breakdowns, especially on the defensive line, which is so rare for them. But it was a brutal game for that D-line, and New England is not going to show up and have those breakdowns on defense like that, certainly in a game of this magnitude. So I just like the under here.
So you would never bet then Jared Goff to score a touchdown plus 450?
No, I wouldn't take the plus 450 there. I don't want to be on the other side, obviously laying the massive money line. But yeah, no, I'm not interested in Jared Goff scoring touchdowns. In fact, I think that if LA is able to move the ball and they are competing in this game like I expect them to, I think it's going to be because they're running the ball so well with the Gurley and Anderson combination, probably especially Gurley. And if there's anything close to the goal line, I think it's going to be the Gurley show.
Now, an interesting one would be total rushing yards by Goff 6.5. Obviously, you said the under. What did you say? It was 8.5 now.
Yeah, 8.5 everywhere now.
So, what is the longest single rush by Jared Goff? Do you have there? I'm sure they probably go hand in hand at that point.
I would get longest rush.
Because here they're 6.5 both ways, but at the updated totals.
No problem. I'll take a look.
In a spot like that where you try to double down,
7.5. They have it at
7.5
Westgate,
with
yeah.
8.5 as his total rushing yards.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of an interesting one. You talked about if he gets a 9-yard rush and then starts taking knees. Yeah. Does that prop kind of go hand in hand? Rushing yards under 6.5, but also the longest rush. Does that kind of go hand in hand?
You would think so because of the limited amount of times he's going to obviously rush the ball for the most part. So yes, I would say that they are probably relatively similar. Yeah, it's a great point you bring up. I didn't see necessarily a positive or negative on either one. I had seen that number. I did not look at Westgate to see that number. I had seen the longest rush at 6.5, like it probably was here originally at Westgate, and I knew that the total rushing yards was 8.5, and I wanted to just get the highest number I could for the wager. So yeah, it's I do think very, very similar. No question, you're right about that. I was just trying to find the highest number I could, just because I knew I wanted the under.
Fair enough. A golf prop I like is because I think he's a little young, and obviously this is his first foray into the Super Bowl. But I like his first. What will he throw first? A touchdown or interception? I like the interception at plus 240. It just seems like it's good value right there, and he gets the bright lights in his face, a little bit of pressure from Van Noy or Hightower or any of those guys, and he might throw a duck up, kind of a la Drew Brees style. So getting plus 240 there, I think maybe a first drive or second drive, he may throw a pick in that spot. So I'll take the interception in that spot. Anybody else with some Jared Goff props they like? Or we can move on to Gurley and C.J. Anderson. Anybody with a Gurley or a C.J. Anderson? I know you think Gurley's going to have a good game.
I do. This is another one I've been waiting out, actually, for the number. I see it anywhere ranging from 63 to 60. I was hoping that something would come in a little bit more. I know there's been a little bit of anti-Gurley faction that has been kind of gathering some steam here, that people continue to think that he's not healthy. He opened at 68.5 at Westgate, and it's now down to 62. So I was hoping it to get under the 60 mark. My number that I think he's actually going to have is anywhere from 70 to 75, just because I think the amount of carries is going to be high enough that will get him to that range. But I want to see something at 57, 58, 59. So that's why I'm going to wait this one out probably until Kingdom Come, all the way until the end. And anything that gets under 60, I just like. Plus, I think it had been brought up before by Cleo or somebody else that the possibility that Gurley can break one, and he's very, very capable of long chunk plays, both as a receiver and as a rusher. And I like to be on, if I'm going to be betting overs on players, I really like to have that chunk play potential there for that player. So yeah, I'm waiting.
Total yards prop. Does he have a total yards prop?
Rushing and receiving. I did not see one, actually. Not to my knowledge, no.
Interesting.
Yeah, that would be kind of fun, though. But no, I did not see one. Unless anybody else.
Well, you figure his 68.5 here, his receiving is 32.5, so that's basically 101 for total yards. I feel like if there is one around, there's probably going to be right around.
That's a lot right there, still.
It is a lot, yeah. But if you believe Gurley's not as hurt as, like you said, like they're leading on, that might be a situation where you jump on it. All right, Rams wide receivers, Robert Woods, Brandon Cooks, Josh Reynolds, and tight ends, Everett. I know you like a few in that spot, but anybody else interested in the Rams wide receivers and their props?
I won't be betting on any of those.
I kind of like the no on Brandon Cooks rushing the ball at plus 110. I don't feel like as much, like I said, as much as McVay is an offensive innovator, I don't feel like he's going to stray too far, unless he believes he's going to try to run the Philly special again. Which in that case, I think Robert Woods is the best actual passer, so he may run it with him. But you have a few Josh Reynolds. I have a few Josh Reynolds as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I also, while speaking quickly on Cooks, I do like the Cooks under receiving yards here. This is not just him as a player. This is actually him playing against a former team. And I like when New England faces former players, especially players that are actually legit game-changing type of players. Almost always we see in these type of spots the player not shine in the game they play coming back against New England. It's just, maybe it's an informational thing that the preparation with Belichick and the rest of the coaching staff is so good and they know the players so well. I've seen this too many times, and his number to be, I got it at 75 here, not that that really matters, but I'm a big fan of the under in that one. But yeah, Reynolds, to me, and we were talking about this a little bit earlier, Aaron, the fact that I think he is the biggest outlier on offense besides James Devlin, of course, but between these two teams, I think he's certainly the guy that has the most unknown attached, and we love unknown in these things because hopefully we can find a good number and a good spot and get some value. And to me, Reynolds is potentially the best receiver on this team in the next couple of years. Obviously, he needs some time to develop, and we'll see what happens. But I really like his talent. I like his ability, both running on inside and outside. It looks like he can line up anywhere, and his route running has become a lot better even as the season's gone on. The Cooper Kupp injury, while not good for the team, has been really, really good for him. So Reynolds, to me, is a complete outlier. He might get some rushes. He might line up in 3 different spots. I just think that there's going to be a big play attached somehow with him. He's very, very talented, and he's a tough guy to match up against. So my only play there is over 19.5 longest reception. for him, and I know we had talked about that, for the first reception bet. I just think he's going to have a huge play. So whether it comes right away, whether it comes later, I'm not really sure. But I'm on the Reynolds longest reception. You could probably convince me to take the over receiving yards as well, but it's possibly that it's like 2 for 50 as well. So I'm a little bit concerned. That would work for him. Yes, you're right, but I'm just a little bit concerned about the overall yards. Again, I would be on the over if I had to be there, but I think one big play from him for sure.
Yeah, I'm with you on the. Actually, I like the over 47.5 yards as well. And I also think he's going to get 4 or 5 catches as well.
Oh, okay.
We talked about. I think Belichick's going to try to take away the best weapon you have on the offensive side of the ball, both through the air and through the ground. And I think Gilmore's going to sit on Brandon Cooks, and that opens up Woods and Reynolds. And I think the focus would probably be from J.C. Jones and is it J.C. Jackson and Jonathan Jones. I think most of the focus will be on Woods. And like you said, the outlier is Josh Reynolds in that spot, and he's the Cooper Kupp role, and I think he can find a few spots to open up in the defense because a lot of people are saying that the Patriots are going to go in zone because they don't have enough pieces to cover all of these weapons like the flip side, whereas, like I said, we got Talib and Peters being able to cover, Edelman and Hogan. So more than likely the Patriots will go into a zone, which will open up Josh Reynolds. Scoring a touchdown's nice at plus 200 as well. He might get in the end zone there. All right. Anything else with the wide receivers for the Rams? Anybody else got anything they like? I kind of like the receptions with Robert Woods under 5 as well, under 5.5, and the Brandon Cooks under 5.5 is actually juiced at 130. Any Zerloin props? Who likes Greg the Leg? Anybody like Greg the Leg? Total points over 8.5. You like it, Token?
No, I'm not for or against it right now, and just not something I'm looking into right now. One I was looking into on defense for sure was one of my probably favorite players on the Patriots, Kyle Van Noy. Total solo and assisted tackles over 6.5. It's even money right now.
Did I miss that?
Yeah, it was back on page 11.
Side.
Oh, well, where the hell were you?
Yeah. I was looking up the current line, too.
I wanted to wait 20 minutes until I brought that one up. Here's a fun one. You were talking about this would get your over 2.5 passes. Will Johnny Hecker attempt a pass? Yes, plus 400.
I was just looking at that one, yeah. That's definitely an interesting line. If there is going to be somebody on the Rams, aside from Goff, to attempt a pass, I would have to think Hecker is it. So,
yeah, especially if they need a spark on offense. I would imagine this is the spot.
And that 4-1, that's a pretty good line.
Now here's this one. I want you to look up and see if there's a more current line. The total number of different Rams to have a rushing attempt. We talk about Goff probably not having the opportunity, but you have CJ, you have Gurley, probably an end around from one of these guys. This seems like a number that might be closer to the under. 5? That's a high number for them, it seems. It's still at 110 either way.
It is. Wow, it is not. It is. Wow, this is a huge move. So it's still the 5 is the number. The under is minus 270.
Whoa.
Wow, that's a mistake. That's the Superbook not making a good opening line. Wow, that's bad.
Yeah, that's because I felt like that was a good bet for the under on that spot.
Wow. So in both playoff games thus far, the Rams have had 6 rushing attempts and 5 rushing players and 6 rushing players.
You're not losing money so far.
It's true.
Wow, they had 6 in one game. That is surprising.
Last game.
Yep, 5.
That is.
Who were they?
5 in Week 17 against the Niners, and 7 against the Cardinals in Week 16.
Well, they were blowing out the Cardinals.
Yeah. So in the game against the Saints, Anderson, Reynolds, Gurley, Goff, Woods.
To 2 wide receivers with rushing attempts, and then in the Dallas game, you said they had 6, right?
Dallas game they had Anderson, Gurley, Goff, Woods, Reynolds, Cooks.
3 receivers with rushes. Wow.
And they could pull something out and do the same thing this week.
It's true. All right. What about any Rams defensive props? Anybody on any Rams defensive? Solo and assisted tackles by Aaron Donald. I think he's had 3.5 the whole playoff, or 3.5 the whole playoff so far. So that makes for an interesting one right there. Anything else you guys see as far as that? Marcus Peters or Talib catching interception?
I only very briefly was on. Again, this is just, I guess, same old here. The rushing yards, total rushing yards for the Rams, open at 127 here at Westgate. It is now at 113. It is another number that I really like. The over, obviously, if you're going to like the Gurley over, you're probably going to like that one too. So it's just something that's fascinating. It's gone down 14 yards, which I think is...
Which one is that, Tony?
That is 10479 on page 16, total rushing yards, yeah. Down to 113. Open at 127, down to 113. So I like the over there. Just the line movement kind of correlates with how I think the game's going to go. Again, the same things we've been talking about. So, yeah.
All right, let's flip over to page 17, and you kind of have the comparison props, the first props and the more props. Anything we see there, like who will throw the first TD, Brady or Goff?
There's a lot of line movement in these two, just so you know.
Oh,
so
have there?
Fire it out, I can.
So I'm imagining Brady's going to be the juiced spot in there.
He is. He's become the favorite in touchdown pass, and he's the favorite, I think, he might have been the favorite in the pick, too.
Is he really?
Weird. But, yes. Maybe just because of an attempt thing, because he's going to actually throw more passes. I'm not really sure. But, nope, they're 110. Well, yeah, they're both 110 on interception, and on first TD pass. Oh, it's the same. It's the same. They're both 110 on both of them.
Wow.
So, yeah. So there you go.
So here's a question I have for you guys. In a situation like this, I'm looking specifically at Rob Gronkowski's receiving yards versus Gerald Everett. Rob Gronkowski minus 25.5 for the 110 juice.
28 now.
Is it 28? Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, in a situation like this, would you rather have a spread with a lower juice, or would you rather have even matchup with a higher juice?
I mean, if you're that confident in it, you probably want even with a higher juice. Even though you're going to lay more money, I think you're more confident in that pick.
Yeah. Anybody else have a take on that?
Case-by-case basis for me. I try not to pigeonhole ourselves into one specifically. It might depend on who the players are, the quantity of like a receptions type of thing. If we're dealing with two receivers or two tight ends that aren't really used very much, then it might actually mean a lot more because you can really quantify the amount of receptions they're going to get because they're not going to get like 7 receptions each. It's going to be 1, 2, or 3, and so I think every yard and every numerical amount matters there. Whereas if you're dealing with something here where it's rushing yards, Sony versus Gurley. Obviously, there's going to be a lot more variance, going on there because they're both going to get a bunch of rushes, and there's a lot more that can go on. So I don't think it's as viable in a spot like that.
Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, it's like looking at it. There's a couple of them. Edelman minus 7.5 versus Robert Woods. One prop I looked at over here that I kind of like is Patriots first half points versus Rams full game points minus 13.5. Obviously, the underbettors would love to, kind of, figure this one out. But even still in this spot, if you assume a low-scoring game, 13.5 is a weird kind of a weird number in this spot. But if you assume that the game's going to be high, however, the Patriots might not score that much in the first half. It's kind of a fun bet. Like how much do you think the Patriots can get in the first half, versus how much do you think that the Rams are going to score in the entire game? It makes for kind of an interesting back and forth battle. Another one is obviously the jersey number of the player to score the first touchdown. It sits right around. It's right at Sony Michel's number. Not a lot of guys above that number. I mean, James White, you get in the over. You get the 2 tight ends for the Rams. Who else do you really get in the over in that spot?
Gronk.
Cordero, yeah, Gronk. Mm-hmm. Not a lot of your high-profile touchdown guys.
No.
James Devlin's in there.
A lot of defenders.
That's true.
A lot of defenders.
Yeah, you get the defenders. Yeah, that's true. Every defender, I would imagine, almost, except for a couple cornerbacks.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Over is now minus 140 in that bet. So
that's going to be the bad beat where it's interception, pick 6.
Yeah.
High number.
Pick 6 by like...
Kyle Van Noy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the problem I think
number 55
there
or
is
something
I love having Sony Michel, obviously, with an under because I think he is the most likely, to score the first touchdown overall. I mean, we'll get to that a little bit later. But both Rams running backs are over that 26.5 number, so that's a little bit concerning if you're on the under faction there.
Well, here's one right up your alley, Tony, is highest scoring quarter by both teams. If you like the under, you would imagine that this would be an underplay in this bet, too.
Yes, but I'm just concerned about if a game gets awry and there's a 2-score difference. I know I said that earlier. That sometimes these points can come in droves. It looked like the people that took the under in the New England-Kansas City game, a couple of weeks ago, were flying high. Great wager. It was only 13 or so points or whatever it was in the first half, and then all of a sudden they just got hit below the belt in the fourth quarter, and the over just gets there for unknown, godforsaken reasons. And it's just
too short to bet the under.
That's the
you make less
play,
money that
right?
way.
Yeah, it's. I'm scared of that bet. I feel like there could be a 28-point quarter, but yet the game finishes with 47 total points. No, that is scary stuff to me. I don't like that one at all.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
That's what I kind of figured you would say, so I kind of wanted to throw that out at you. All right, we've been getting to all of the team props. Now it's time for the point I know that you've all been waiting for. Cross-sport props.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Rather than go down page by page of all of these, because there's golf, there's college basketball, there's NBA, there's Golden Knights hockey, there's even other hockey games here as well. Just give me some of these prop bets you guys are looking at.
I had one of those circled, but I actually erased it now.
The one on page 18 that I'm most interested in is LeBron James and Tom Brady completions. But the factor is, will LeBron play or not?
Well, it looks like it's off.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's still off. I think
I don't think they're ever going to put it back on. Yeah.
We'll see. Yeah, he's got to really be a confirmed kind of play before they put that on. I don't think they want to mess with that. I'll just throw one out here quickly since we're on this page of the NBA. I'm very likely, obviously you can wait, we have a few days here before this goes off. I'm leaning hard on the side of Luka Doncic. Points versus distance of first field goal made in the Super Bowl. The first field goal made is minus 16.5. So we have two things working here. I like kind of both sides of this one. Field goals, as we know, I'm not a huge fan of not only that many field goals probably being made, but just distance-wise. It's the only way I think this thing is really, you're confident if you're on the field goal side, is if you can get a long one early. And the number actually for the first field goal made back on many other pages, bet number 10013, is 36.5 yards for the first field goal made. We got a lot of good things working in the Doncic camp. His minutes have gone up now. He's playing 4 minutes more per game so far here in January than versus in November and December. This is the first time they're facing Cleveland, but Cleveland is an absolute dumpster fire in regards to offense, defense, everything. They allow 114 points per game. Opponents shoot 49.4% from the field, which is dead last by a mile in the NBA. And opponents are also shooting 39% from three, which is a very, very high number. It's a bad spot here. I like the matchup a lot against Cleveland. I like how he's going to be playing. He's playing more minutes as this goes on. Dallas also doesn't play for the previous couple of days before that game, so at least you're going to get some rest. Very unlikely his minutes would be limited here. So I know I'm getting really, really in-depth, and I apologize for talking about this a lot, but I'm a big fan of the Doncic here. Make sure he's healthy before going into the game, obviously. We'll take Doncic over the first field goal made plus 16.5.
Yeah, on that same page, I'm kind of in a spot here. We talk about Brandon Cooks probably not being able to perform against his former team as well as he'd like to. The Golden State Warriors, first half points, you got them against Brandon Cooks receiving yards, minus 11.5. I think Golden State's good for at least 60 in that spot, so you're looking at 71.5, which is close to the total, but if we think he's gonna stay under, I think Golden State could probably stay within 11.5 in that spot. And Golden State's always able to also put up 80 in any given half, too, especially against the Lakers with potentially probably no LeBron in that spot. I like 105.67. Has that changed at all, do you know?
It is the exact same, still 11.5. And just out of curiosity, they scored 69 a week and a half ago against the Lakers and a win. So.
There you go. And it's at home this time, too. So
Yes.
So, anything you guys like on these cross-sport props? We don't have to stay on each page, but
not for me personally, but for anybody betting the under, there's one that looks pretty good. Number 10684. Who will have more? Golden Knights shots on goal minus 2.5 or Patriots points? For the people thinking that the game is going to go under, the Knights should be able to put up somewhere between 35 and 40 goals. So if you think the Patriots are going to stay
35 and 40 goals, that'd be damn impressive.
That would be impressive. 35 or 40 shots.
That's like EA Sports impressive.
Yeah, I'm not even that good on NHL 19.
Then I think the Patriots' point total might stay under that, especially for those that think that the game is going to stay under.
Are the Panthers any? What's your read on the Panthers side? I'm not the hockey guy here, but how do they match up in regards to the Panthers, or versus anybody else?
Vegas just is going to shoot like fucking crazy. They don't get the best shots. They don't get the highest quality shots. They don't get the best
high
scoring. Yeah, but they're ripping it on net quite a bit, especially the first and second line, because the third line is a dumpster fire, and none of them want to get demoted down to the third line because that's where players go to die.
It's true. Staying on that page, I like a spot here with 106.95. Connor McDavid's points versus Brady's rushing attempts. I got to pay a little juice, but if Brady has 0 rushing attempts and McDavid has 0 points, I still get the hook right there. So I think Connor McDavid, a point-a-game guy, should probably be able to get one past Carey Price, and he's definitely an assist monster. So I'm going to say Connor's good for 2, maybe 3 points in this spot. And I don't see Brady really running any unless it's a sneak. So I give Brady 1 max attempts. So I'll take Connor McDavid in that spot. And even if it's 0-0, I still get the win in there. So I kind of like that. I also like Max Pacioretty's shots on goal. He's averaging 3 shots on goal. That's actually 2.9. So I'm going to call it 3. Versus Tom Brady's touchdown passes. Again, I'm kind of in your camp. I don't know if he's necessarily going to have a lot of touchdown passes in this spot. So I'm going to take Max Pacioretty, 106.73, to have more shots on goal than Brady's touchdowns.
I got one I like, a little golf and football mix.
Golf and football mix?
Yeah. We got John Rahm at the Phoenix the Waste Management Tournament. Minus 20.5 for his 4 rounds versus the longest TD of the game.
That's just 4th round score.
Things have changed. Yeah. 'Tis confusion. Here's one that kind of interests me. Is
minus 21 in his 4th round? Is that
minus 20.5 of his 4th round total score? Okay. So he'll probably shoot mid 60 something. Yeah, maybe 68 something around there, 65, 68.
And it's the total score of the game.
Total longest
versus the longest TD of the game.
Yeah.
So you get to deal with that.
I like John Rahm coming off hot and taking that bet down. He went to college in Arizona. That's his hometown course, his hometown family, everything.
Yeah.
Not his family, but
you got the stadium hole there and all that. Yeah.
He's been playing some good golf, and I think if you're looking for a fun little bet,
especially if you think he's going to shoot like low 60s, you can bring that down and you can get the over on that even better. Yeah.
He's played TPC Scottsdale just so many times. So.
All right, here's a prop bet, Spike. I want you to break down a little bit. This would be interesting. Actually, everybody, this is for everybody, but Spike's the one I kind of want to get his first crack at his take on this. It's Patriots and Rams fumbles lost 106.90 against 106.89. VGK, Vegas Golden Knights, Stanley Cup Series wins.
Yeah, I saw that one, and I was kind of
playoff wins, series
wins, which is really just such a mind fuck.
I feel like you have to take the fumbles in this spot.
But I mean, how deep do you expect Vegas to go in the playoffs? And that's part of the problem is that we're so far out.
Well, they're still in the playoff spot, but they have to go. The Sharks would get home field advantage or home ice advantage,
right? I mean, and we know they match up fairly well against the Sharks this year. But then who are they playing in the round after that? And it's really hard for me, especially knowing that.
Plus, that would be a prop you have to wait 5 months for, too.
Right, which I despise. I hate doing bets.
I was just going to say that. If I had an opinion on this, is do not bet.
No, I wouldn't make the bet. I'm just curious because VGK is... Everybody is all, they went to the Stanley Cup last year. Well, it's hard to win series.
Yeah, and that's part of... And the flip side of that is, at best, they can win 4. If you think there's going to be more than 4 fumbles in the game, which there shouldn't be,
Bet that, yeah.
but if
You get shut out.
yeah.
Could be some crazy stuff in this game. You never know. I mean,
I think the fumbles lost has to be the auto bet there, right? I mean,
that's the way I would for sure.
if the season
lean.
ended today, they'd be on the road in San Jose, and then they'd have to go to Calgary, which they haven't performed well. More than likely, Calgary's going to advance.
And they'd lose to Calgary. I actually have Calgary. I bet
and it
Calgary to
says
win the West.
if Golden Knights do not make playoffs, all bets are refunded.
Ooh, that's actually important.
That is
very
important because
If
if
they fall apart.
it would have been cool if you had the Patriots-Rams fumbles and then they missed the playoffs with giving them 0.
Nope, you just get a refund. Yeah.
Well, it's still a little bit of a rake back for you.
Yeah, but if you pick Patriots Rams fumbles, you're hoping that they completely whiff on the playoffs. And
I mean, if there's 3, like he said, if there's 3 lost fumbles in this game, they would have to go to the Cup.
finals,
Yeah.
Fantastic.
for a push. Yeah.
What a sweat that would be, though. I mean, if you really want to drag this thing out and just hang on to a ticket till Kingdom Come, you can.
It's
you can
a future.
do that.
It's basically a futures bet.
It's
a 5-month
like betting a
futures.
futures. Exactly. Yep.
So what else we like for cross-team props?
One that actually, I hate to admit, but Brady interceptions versus Nate Schmidt points, 106.71, 106.72. I think you have to take Brady in that spot. As much as I hate to say it, I think Brady throws at least one pick, and Schmidt, while he's a shutdown defender and he's been able to contribute a little bit, he is useless on the power play. Actually, the Knights in general have been useless on the power play. And most of the points this year have been coming from the forward lines. The defense has not contributed nearly as much as they did last year, especially not Colin Miller. Granted, he was out for however many games. I think that's a lock for Brady right there.
Yeah, another one here it makes for an interesting one as well is Marc-Andre Fleury's saves -1.5 versus Rams points. Underbettors, I think, have got to be looking at the saves for Marc-Andre Fleury, unless Marc-Andre Fleury gives up 5 goals. But I mean, like you're saying, I mean, an average NHL team probably gets 28 to 32 shots on most given nights. And say Fleury, let's say they on the average get 30 shots, Fleury stops 28 of them. If you think the Rams are 26 points or worse in this Super Bowl, you got to feel like Marc-Andre might be a good shot. And obviously, if the defense doesn't play very well, then Marc-Andre might face 50 shots.
Yeah.
But there are some games, especially the Panthers. They're a hard team to predict. They take a lot of nights off. Either that or they're not very talented.
They have been up and down all season. They're killing me. Absolutely killing me.
They're a tough one. So, any other golf props over there, Cleo, you've been looking at you like?
I didn't like any more of the golf props, just the John Rahm one.
I know, Tony, you've been on a few of these golf props here, too, as well, with the Waste Management and the Dubai. Not the Dubai, but the Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, so brand new tournament in the European Tour. Like I know a lot of our listeners actually care about that. But I studied the course a little bit of what they're going to be playing. It's the first time this is being held there. And the likes of Mariah Carey, Tiesto, and Sean Paul will be in attendance giving their musical stylings during the tournament as well.
Are the punters going to be there, too?
I mean, could potentially. But it's just some knowledge I came across. I figured I'd share. But yeah, so the nice thing about this is I looked at the weather forecast kind of going forward, too, because based on, it's all fourth round type of stuff here, and it looks like there's going to be pretty light winds and low 70s, which I really like. They've also cut the rough relatively short, so there's, I think it says it's only going to be about 3 inches long. And the course is relatively wide open. Obviously, being in Saudi Arabia, you're going to assume more of a desert-style course. So the one I focused on here is Brooks Koepka, his fourth round birdies versus Brandon Cook's receptions. And I know we've kind of beaten the dead horse here with Brandon Cook's and one lack thereof, maybe, of his production in this game. And so this just goes right hand in hand here. I like the Koepka spot. It's a par 70 with 2 par 5s, but what I like here is there are 3 short par 4s on this course, and Koepka has been in the top 10 in the last 2 years in birdies or better on par 4s that are 350 yards or less. And the only reason I know that is I've I've been able to find some spots the last couple of years as Brooks Koepka has risen here on certain courses. He really fits in certain spots better than others. Added on to that, he's played on the European Tour before he even got to the PGA Tour, so he is familiar with these types of surroundings. He's played in Dubai, he's played in Abu Dhabi, he's played in all these places. So I do kind of like that. I liked how the weather's attached here, and I'm not a big fan of Cooks and the amount of receptions he's going to get. So it's also plus a half. So that you're getting with Koepka birdies. I'm expecting 5 in the 4 to 6 birdie range. It's unlikely he gets a lot of eagles here too. The 2 par 5s are on the relatively longer side, but are easy to get to in the sense of their kind of target golf. That's 1 shot and 2 to where you need to go. So I like the Brooks Koepka side here, and I think he could win this one really going away.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that as well. I mean, there's probably a few of those par 4s that he's probably going to be able to drive, and you might have to sweat out him possibly having an eagle instead of a birdie, though.
It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah, that is. There's one of the par 5s is like 540, but it's not terribly easy to get to. The other one's just like
a little dogleg.
Yeah, I'm not too worried about eagles per se. He might be able to drive a couple of the par 4s, but
he's one of the best putters on tour too.
Yeah.
Sure. That's what you need to make birdies. That's all.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
They can all hit their irons close. That's who can putt.
100% true.
Florida State guy.
Putt for the dough.
And this one's just more right off the cuff on the next page here. I like the Phil Mickelson 4th round bogeys or worse in the Waste Management Open in Scottsdale versus Josh Reynolds receptions. I know, Aaron, and we've talked about this, that we do think Reynolds has a potential to make some hay in this game, but it's the reception number that I'm not too worried about here. Also, Reynolds is minus 1.5 in this line. And the last 5 years, Mickelson in the 4th round of this tournament, he's gone 69, 71, 71. He had missed the cut, and then also a 71. 2 of those 71 numbers, he had 4 bogeys or worse. Despite only shooting even par, he had 4 bogeys or worse in 2 of those rounds. So it goes to show you, when he gets the flat stick going and how many birdies he can make and how quickly he can do it. So it's just one of those spots. I think I'm just going to use the general, averages here, assuming he can get in, maybe 3 or so bogeys or worse than that, and Reynolds is just going to have to do too much on his end with 5 receptions or more to be able to win. I don't like that here for Reynolds, so I'm on the Phil Mickelson side of bogeys or worse in the 4th round.
Fair enough. I am going to take a stab at a soccer cross prop.
Fantastic.
I actually looked this up. Arsenal and Manchester City first half goals against Steven Gostkowski's field goals made. Minus a half. It's 110 either way. I'm looking, Steve, for 2 field goals, and in the first half, actually, both of these teams are averaging a goal and a half combined in their first half matchups. So
I really like this bet.
I'm really hoping that it's a 0-0 first half, and Gostkowski can put a chip shot through, and I'm good in that spot. That's the only research I did on the soccer cross props. God damn.
So we're taking Gostkowski.
We're taking Gostkowski minus the half over Arsenal. 106.46.
Beautiful.
That is what we will be taking. And hopefully it's still 110 either way. I can't imagine there's a lot of handle on these soccer.
No. I looked at a
football.
few of these, and there hadn't been any movement for the golf and the NBA ones that I was interested in. So yeah, I wouldn't think so in the other sports, but I obviously don't know.
Anybody else for some cross props?
Yeah, I found one that I like. 10-7-0-1 and 10-7-0-2. Flames and Hurricanes goals -1, and Patriots and Rams touchdowns and field goals made in first half. I would lean towards the Flames and Hurricanes goals -1. I do believe this game is going to get off to a slower start, but that hockey game I think will probably end about a 5-2 or 4-2 final, something around there. So I don't see 5 total scores in the first half.
Yeah, Token, I was looking at that exact same one. I really like that.
Yeah, slow start better's got to feel like the hockey game's going to be there.
Both teams have been playing really well, so
yeah.
But that -1
I wouldn't even be
really
surprised by like a 6-3 final, something.
But having to lay a goal to pay the same amount of juice has got to be tough in that spot too.
It is, but
is that one of those games you think the total's going to be that 6.5 type of range? I see those in hockey sometimes where the really big totals can come up.
And that's kind of the tough one here. I mean, we're a week.
I would say 6 is probably going to be the most likely.
Probably
line
5.5 or 6, but
really?
it's a tough.
But I could also see a 4-3 final with it going to overtime.
But, I mean, it's hard to predict a situation like that a week out. I mean, injuries can happen. You really, on these ones, have to wait until almost that game goes off, closes at 11:05 Pacific time, that bet. So,
the morning of, yeah.
Yeah, so it's really a situation where, and remember, shootout goals don't count, just only the one goal. But having to lay that extra goal, you're right, it's, if you believe the game's going to get out to a slow start or the under's good on the first half, yeah, the goals, 6 goals or 5-6 goals in that realm doesn't seem like a bad prop. Mm-hmm. All right, any other cross-sport prop bets that anybody likes before we move on to MVPs and the fucking weird shit that's going on back here? I like to call them exactas.
Yeah.
Any other cross-sport props?
It's like golf betting.
Yeah.
The entire thing, really.
Yeah.
All right, so Token, are we doing our tattoo bet again?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Anybody else in for the tattoo bet?
I forgot about this last year.
I'm not in for this either.
Aw, pussies!
I want to see what happens.
Jimmy Vaccaro of not taking...
You're the Jimmy Vaccaro of tattoo bets.
I hope you're listening, Jimmy. I hope for some reason you are. And shame on you. Awful.
All right, so what lines are we going to use?
Let's use Superbooks, and let's make it if it's 80 to 1 or higher. If that's okay with you.
Okay.
He likes somebody at 80, probably.
Yeah, that's the problem. There's only one person at 80. That's Cordero.
There's two. Hogan and Cordell.
Oh, okay. All right, I'll let you have first pick then.
Okay. I am going with the same guy I went with last year.
Kyle Van Noy?
Kyle Van Noy, yes. I do believe he makes a big statement in this game. If he gets a pick and runs with it back for the pick 6, I think that will definitely add to it. I see him probably getting at least probably 8 solo or assisted tackles.
Wow.
Yeah, that's why I like the over the 6.5 for him, as well as probably his a couple sacks, as well as maybe a possibility for a fumble in that spot too. So,
fair enough. All right, so my boy Philip Dorsett sits there in the 100 to 1 range. However, it's very hard for an offensive player not quarterbacking, other than Deion Branch, to win Super Bowl MVP. So, with that being said, I'm going to see your Kyle Van Noy, and I'm going to raise you Corey Littleton of the Los Angeles Rams, who's also a linebacker, who mostly plays in coverage. So I can see, I'm thinking for a defensive player to win MVP, I'm thinking a linebacker needs 2 picks, 1 return for a touchdown, and a timely sack. So as much as I've watched Kyle Van Noy, he ain't that guy. So, and I think right butt cheek is where you're going to be putting your tattoo this year.
Oh, you get to choose the location, too?
Choose location and the tattoo.
How big does it have to be? Is there like a size? Like, it has to be bigger than a certain size?
Well, considering we've never hit it, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
Yeah. The only stipulation that we had is it can't
Nothing
be like on
vulgar.
your face or like...
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Something covered by an article of clothing.
Yeah.
So you could get 37, lives alone, has 3 cats.
Oh, it's worse things in life. Could be a screaming ferret.
There you go. All right, you 3 guys. How are you looking? What are you guys looking at on MVPs that are not named Goff or Brady?
I'm sprinkling a little bit on Michelle and Gurley, but I'm not.
That sounds like a porno.
Yeah.
Sprinkling a little on Michelle.
There you go.
Now if Larry Fitzgerald was in this.
Yeah, that's a gay porn.
Yeah.
This is why I try not to say much.
Oh, come on. Larry Fitzgerald, it's a gay porn.
Yes, we've all heard the joke when we were in 4th grade.
Cleo's new. And Larry Fitzgerald didn't exist in 4th grade.
No,
But Michael Jackson
Patrick
did.
Fitzgerald, Gerald Fitzpatrick.
Shaving Ryan's privates.
Julian Edelman at 30 to 1 and Gronk at 40 to 1. Which one do you guys think has a better chance?
Edelman.
I would say Edelman. I think because he's quicker than Gronk and is more around that middle field. I think Edelman is. Yeah. I think Edelman's more likely to get MVP, but very unlikely, I think,
Well,
due
Gronk
to Brady.
maybe retiring? What if he gets like
I would
the
actually
last touchdown?
not because of the
game or
retirement thing, but I would think Gronk, if he goes 5 for 101 and 2 touchdowns, I think there's a shot that he. I mean, again, I think it's going to go to Brady.
I think Edelman can get that too, though.
Yeah, but I think more expectation of Edelman to go 5 for 101 and 2 touchdowns than Rob Gronkowski, as evidenced by obviously 30-1 and 40-1, and by these two dopes over here saying he's a shell of himself. God, I would put a tattoo of Gronk on your left butt cheek if he gets MVP.
I figured you would, which is part of the reason why I'm not taking the bet. But I wouldn't actually worry about it because he's
probably not.
He's been fucking done.
Any player who on the offense has to have 200 yards or else Brady's getting it.
He could pass for a touchdown too.
Oh God. All right, what you say? He's sprinkling Michelle.
Yeah, I'm piggybacking Spike here with Gurley.
I was kind of with
well.
Michelle, though.
Yeah, Michelle's not a bad option. I mean, especially if he gets the amount of volume that he's had on the last few games without them going to Burkhead, which they did a little bit, in previous spots. I could see that being a potential deal especially if you get a spot where Brady maybe isn't healthy the whole game. Sometimes weird things do end up happening, and if Michelle is able to sort of take over and they're able to ride him out,
get Brian Hoyer at 15-1.
Yeah. So no, I mean it's just I'm not saying
16-1 is pretty good value
for both running backs.
Yeah, and I'm with Spike on the Gurley deal. I think it's much less likely that Goff wins if the Rams win the game because he certainly doesn't carry the weight that Brady has in this type of sense. So totally with you on the Gurley sense, and I think Aaron and I have kind of espoused on Josh Reynolds here, but
60-1's not bad.
Yeah, that's the other spot where I would go certainly there. And again, remember to shop around because these lines can really vary around too. If you can shop around.
If somebody throws $100 on these lines, they can drop quick.
Exactly, and then there's 100-1 out there on Reynolds another spot. So just kind of take a look there. But those are the only ones I'm on.
All right, any value on these player to score first touchdown props for either team?
I like Sonny Michel on this one for New England. I think 6-1 is reasonable value for him.
Fair enough. I would have thought you'd gone Edelman in that spot.
I was kind of thinking Edelman there. 10-1.
He doesn't score many touchdowns. That's one of those things with Edelman.
These things are going to be running a little more, though.
Yeah, if they get deeper in the red zone, usually they go to like Gronk or somebody a little.
Tom Brady QB sneak 40 to for 60-1.
Yeah.
An interesting one would be, especially for underbackers, if they think this game's going to start out slow, the player to score touchdown in the first half, no touchdown scored at 100-1 for the Patriots. Or if there's no touchdowns at all, which I highly doubt, but 101 is not bad value.
Player score.
Interesting, yeah.
We have a field goal kicking. We have a field goal kicking contest. So what about on the player to score in the second? I mean, these are all you could realistically just
nom on this all day. Yeah,
it's kind of tough. I mean, it's basically the player to score first.
A lot of luck involved.
You just got to pick. You got to get lucky and pick a guy with value. The only way to do this is to pick, $5 on guys with 40-1 or greater and hope you hit. JoJo Natson returning a punt at 200-1 would be interesting. I think he's 200-1 in all 4 spots too. Yeah, 200-1 in all 4.
Take it across the board and hope for the best.
Yeah, $5 on 200-1 each spot, so you're risking 20 to win
$1,000.
Yeah, it's not a bad bet. It's not a good bet, but it's not bad.
I mean, there is a possibility, but as stated, very unlikely.
Now you can get first touchdown of that team as well, so that's another one. Kind of keeps you in the game if these other ones don't go your way. They're obviously a little bit worse. Sonny Michel only 3-1 in this spot for the team. That might be a little good value. Even though it's cut in half, Sonny Michel has had the first touchdown, I believe, in the last two games as well. So, anything you like as far as? Like you're talking about, JoJo, everything seems to be cut in half in that spot.
Yeah, I picked up Gurley here just because at 7-2, at 3.5-1, I didn't want to have to deal with the whole, who gets the first one in the game entirely because, again, this, as you said, it's just a cut in half deal, and I'm willing to roll just with the Rams. I think he is the way more likely to score on the ground versus C.J. Anderson. I hate the C.J. Anderson line there. Obviously, through the air certainly could be any of these players, but the line for Gurley at most other places was around plus 200, 220, 240, and to get 350 here. This is the first of the carnival-like bets that I jumped on. And I do have Gurley at 7-2 to score the first one for the Rams. I know he's the favorite, but I think he's a strong favorite here. I really do believe.
Speaking of carnival bets, you see the next bet where you have to pick the exact score that these teams accomplish. We should do that.
Seems difficult.
Yes. I'm going to throw probably $5 on the Rams getting shut out at 200 to 1.
That's interesting. I'm surprised the Rams getting shut out as 200 to 1, but the Patriots getting shut out as 300 to 1.
Well, it's.
You shouldn't be. Yeah. You shouldn't be surprised by that. The Rams give up a ton of points.
Well, they do. But yeah, I guess I would think they would both be the same. Both defenses aren't great, but at the same time, I guess most people are betting the Patriots, meaning that they're probably going to score. So, all right. So let's rewind that back.
All right. You're really just throwing darts at some ridiculous dartboard somewhere. I don't know what you could be doing and or thinking here unless you just, again, want to just unload a bunch of money. Yeah, which is fine. Again, and I'm always in the encouragement here of this is why we love the Superbook so much is they come up with these type of bets, and while they may not be actually theoretically good value,
they're probably bringing in more money than they're paying out.
Sure, you want to take a shot if you really think the score is going to be 30-27 New England or whatever. Take a shot on your two numbers, whatever.
That would be interesting. What would you get here? 30 or 30? 20 to 1, 12 to 1. That sounded better in theory.
Yeah, no, those are probably one of the
right, if you hit a 30 to 27, that'd be gross.
All the numbers I'm liking are 15 to 1, so it's just not the greatest value, even 12 to 1.
So here's one. You're talking about over-unders and stuff like that. Now, you've got a kind of a hedge play or a middle play. Where's your middle at? You said 56 to 59, something like that?
Yes, I have over 56.5 and the under 59.
So would a throw down here on 56 to 60 at 5-1 be enticing here? 1-2-5-1-1.
27-31 game.
Yeah, that would. I would.
No, I'm just saying he's got a middle here of 56 to 59. 56 to 60. God forbid it does go to 60. Well, at least a little rakeback coup.
I just get a little bit back. Yeah, I don't necessarily love it on either side. I just made the bet because that's what was presented right away. But do I necessarily like the aspect? To me, I'm more of a. I know we have different opinions on hedging and things like that. To me, if I'm going to make a protection bet, hedge bet, whatever you want to call it, I want it to be the right side. I want to be able to feel good about what I'm betting on. And to me, I'm just not really sure about that. That's exactly why even though it got the best of it with the line of 59, I just purely middled it because I really don't have a good feel for exactly what that number is going to be, and I don't like the variance of these two offenses and how quickly they can score. So, no, not really. The first couple I liked have actually moved already. I like the total points scored 26 to 30, which are opened at 30 to 1, is now 25. And I love the 31 to 35 total points scored, and apparently the public did too because it opened at 25 and now it's at 15.
Yeah.
So just one of those games that grinds it out. I like those numbers too that come in. There's a lot of good numbers there that fit. The one team score versus another one there, but not now. I don't like it as much. Having obviously lower, I don't want to get the worst of it here.
Can I bomb the 2 to 7 points? Is it still 1,000 to 1?
Potentially, I can look at that.
Isn't
but
that crazy that
6-0 Patriots?
91 or more points is the same as 31 to 35. I think that's kind of
crazy,
isn't it?
It's weird.
2-0 right. Super Bowl in overtime.
Nice.
There you go.
How sick would that be?
With a safety being the first and only score of the game. Yeah. With the no touchdown scored coming in as well.
You're still good at 1,000 to 1 from 2 to 7. Absolutely. They want that action.
I'm gonna sprinkle some on that, Michelle. Yeah. All right, anything else with the double results that Spike couldn't find earlier? You like any of those? Anybody else like the double results? Good talk.
No. No, the only thought that I had was touchdown run for first scoring play. I thought had a little bit more value than any of the other options there. 4.5 to 1 for touchdown run I thought was slightly better than the 3.5 to 1 for touchdown pass, and I am not at all a fan of that field goal at 4.5 to 1 as well for the first scoring.
There's the safety.
Play.
I would
50
be,
to 1.
I'd be more enticed with the safety than the field
The
goal.
long shots. Okay, yeah, fair enough. Maybe there's more value with the long shots. I'm not.
But I would out of those 5 that I would bet would be the touchdown run. I think.
Okay.
I think plus 450 is good value on that.
I think the field goal's right there as well, too. I think that it's tough. Both teams have decent defenses. It's an interesting one. But you're right. Touchdown run, you got 4 good options to get that in the end zone, including Tom Brady's quarterback sneak. A couple of these props here, you have the kind of the in-between props here. Like, I guess, what would you call these? The guess the number props instead of having over-unders. I mean,
Yeah, pick a number.
well, it's like pick a range at this spot. You know, if you got Michelle, what's his rushing total? 74. What did we say it was?
Yeah.
Something around there, 74. And
So if you think he can stay right around his number, I mean, 71 to 80 is giving you 7 to 1 value there. It's crazy. His best option, his highest option is 186 to 200. But somehow if he runs for 200 or more, it dips to 25 to 1.
Wow.
And then you got Brady's completions over here. You can literally bet 1, 2, 3,
Yeah.
4.
All the way from 0 to 41 or more. Yep.
Yeah. Could you imagine you take Tom Brady at 0 completions, he hands the ball off first and breaks his ankle.
Gets body slammed.
You get 500 to 1 right there. These prop bets, I mean, like I said, how much action or handle do you think the book's taking on prop bets like this?
I would say out of the ones that are 500 to 1, not much, but out of the Tom Brady completions up to 500 to 1, the most probably enticing one is the 0.
Well, yeah. I mean, actually, if you figure if Brady might have a bad game, I figure you could probably pin him into the 15 to 19 completion range, which gives you this, 30 to 1 through 60 to 1. Those aren't bad. Anything higher than that, obviously, is probably not going to be of great value because you got to peg it right on the number. But
Yeah.
I mean, it's
What a fun sweat though at the end of the game.
Don't throw it.
Yeah, you got Pat's minus 2.5, but he's driving down, but he's got his 28 completion. You got 29, and he completes. It's like complete the 29th one for a day. That's degeneracy at its
tough
finest.
living. It really is.
Yeah.
Very tough living.
Yeah, it's just the next few pages just go on. You get Goff, you get Woods, you get Cooks, and that's about it. 400. We cycled through 442 props. Obviously, we didn't touch them all, and now we're gonna bet them all. I'm just kidding. Any other bets here that you see in any of the books that we didn't talk about, or even it's just there's so much now. It used to be just a Superbook, and now every single other casino is obviously playing the game now. But it seems like we've kind of covered everything, unless I'm missing something.
No, every book's trying to get that that action through to everybody that's going to be in town for this. I mean, it's always packed out here during Super Bowl week, and
that's the question: is how packed is it going to be now with legalized sports betting nationwide?
Yeah.
That's going to be.
I think it will take a slight dip, but still a lot of people are going to come out here.
I'm curious what room rates are for the different hotels.
Well, I assume the LA faction was probably going to help for this one specifically.
Since they're not coming to Atlanta, yeah. So, what are you guys' Super Bowl plans? What are you guys going to be doing?
Well, I know what Spike is
planned.
doing, just holding up
Yes.
somewhere and trying not to break things.
I could not be around other people when the Patriots are in the Super Bowl. It's not reasonable to ask me to do that.
No one's asking you.
Yeah, nobody's asking.
Yeah, we just
Good.
We just assume you're going to be holed up.
Yes.
Over under 1.5 remotes torched.
Over, for sure.
I would say over under number of noise complaints I get from the HOA.
5.5.
Ooh.
That's a good line.
Shouldn't be
not
giving
bad.
noise complaints during the Super Bowl. I feel like that's just kind of not right.
Well, you got to
It's
figure.
a 3-hour span.
The-
You should be able to let it go.
The problem
There's
is
Mormons next door
yeah,
to
I'm
them.
surrounded by Mormons,
Yeah, that'll do you in, yeah.
and Mormons with young kids, and with what I said about Gostowski when he missed that field goal or extra point in last Super Bowl with the windows open.
That's the best.
He's not at that leash.
It was a well-deserved phone call, believe me.
Okay, that's fair. I mean, you know it better than I do, so that's fine. Wow, that's I can't even imagine what those nice Latter-day Saint families are going through.
They're super nice people. The ones to the south of me are nice. The ones to the north can go fuck themselves. But the ones to the south
there's that, yeah.
are nice.
Well, you got to look at it this way. America has, 325 million people, and apparently last year only 111 million of them watched the Super Bowl. So there's more people who don't watch it than who do watch it.
Wow.
And all the Mormons in Spike's neighborhood are part of those majority, I guess.
Could be.
Cleo, what are your Super Bowl plans? You just moved to Vegas.
Yeah, just got in town 2 weeks ago. I don't have any plans at the moment. Are there any casinos that do anything bigger than some other casinos? You would say, or
I would say the Westgate's probably got the biggest thing, but I would say everybody's going to have something
for free.
I
the
probably
Westgate
won't go
is
to the
biggest
casino
thing.
and watch it.
I was going to say for free, you're not going to find much.
Yeah, go if you're going to do something for free. It's got to be. I would get early to one of the larger sports books and just camp out at a spot.
Get there about 11 o'clock the night before.
Yeah, I mean,
Honestly,
you might have to be there, a couple hours, 2-3 hours before. Get to know the person sitting next to you. You can save a seat or whatever, go get some food. Do something like that. I did it before at Green Valley Ranch and had a really good time last year. But yeah, it was. It's tough because obviously it gets packed, of course.
I went to the Red Rock for the
perfect.
AFC.
That's a little more limited seating, though, so that you're going to have to probably be even earlier because just the lack of seating in that sports.
You can
book.
get booted out by a chairman or a president, nobody's business. You could reserve a seat, and they're like, nope, see ya.
Oh, really? Okay, yes. Yeah, I didn't know anything about that. So, yeah, I mean, and definitely avoid the Strip because obviously these books are going to be a lot smaller in regards to seating-wise, and you're going to have, of course, the amount of tourists and L.A. fans. I think there's going to be a lot of L.A. people, so... I think
you got to do a sports book for your first time.
Yeah, I agree.
But
I think that would be a good move.
I'd say the overrated factor comes into play. But so it's going to be an interesting one.
You guys ever been to a Super Bowl?
Yes, I have. Been to 2.
Wow, really? Wow.
I have been to 2.
I was expecting a no.
No, I have been to 2. I have not been to a Patriots Super Bowl though, but
I've been to as many Super Bowls as the Lions have.
We knew we'd get one from Token. There it is.
Yeah, there it is. The Lions somehow made their way into a Super Bowl prop bet. But
I'm a Dolphins fan, so I mean we have our good history, but lately, my Lord.
It's been tough.
Yeah,
You're currently the longest dog.
Next year we're going to be the worst team.
Yeah.
No. I actually, if you,
odds are the worst.
I was looking at next year's odds and all that, and I saw the Dolphins are 200-1. If you think Brady's going to retire, I think there's some value in that.
He's already come out and said there is 0 chance he's retiring, win or lose. That's on video. So good luck with that. But Brian Flores is going to be the new coach. So.
You could just like the Vegas odds, 200-1 at one point.
200-1. Yeah.
I mean,
it is right
history.
now. I mean, this is
stations.
Hell, if you think they can make a wild card, that makes for great hedging opportunities. So
yeah, true.
So anybody else been to Super Bowl?
Never been to one.
Nope.
Don't have much interest in going to one either. It's just such a crazy festivity. I don't want to have to jockey with crowds and idiots. So
been to a U.S. Open for golf and a PGA Championship.
Yes.
Is pretty awesome.
Yeah, U.S. Open.
Masters would be one for sure that I would want to go to. I think I'd rather go to the Masters than the Super Bowl.
Me too.
For sure.
For sure.
100% for me, yes.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree more with that.
You have to get willed those tickets, though.
Yeah.
Somebody has to die and
pretty much
leave those down the line.
Yeah, that was tough.
There's a lottery each year, but yeah, it's tough to get in.
Or people. That's.
I know Condoleezza Rice. Can she get me in?
Yes.
She's a member now.
She would absolutely be able to do so, yeah, for sure.
Sweet. I don't know Condoleezza Rice.
Okay. Well, then.
All right, let's wrap it up with that. That is our Super Bowl Prop Bet podcast. We appreciate you listening. We said 6 hours. We hit the under on that one, so kudos to us.
Good.
For Tony Johnson, for Token Tony, for Skinny Spike, and for new member Cleo, I am Aaron. We appreciate you listening. We will catch you on the next one. Good luck with your Super Bowl bets, and hopefully we can win you some money by either tailing us or fading us. Catch you on the next one.